Chapter 2219 Soul Jade. Chapter 2219 Soul Jade. In the cave, the sound of howling was constantly heard, sometimes mixed with the sound of huge objects hitting the cave wall, and there was a sound of thumping, and the inside was even more gravel like rain, dripping down. It's really tragic. Yang Kai let out a sigh. The purple raccoon nodded in agreement. After a while, the movement from the cave gradually became weaker and finally disappeared. The soul-eating worm has obviously taken care of the monster in the cave. In this world of fugue mirrors, any prey that is targeted by the soul-eating insects has never had a good end. After confirming that it was safe and sound, Yang Kai stepped forward and walked into the cave. The light in the cave is dim, but it does not hinder Yang Kai's vision. After all, it is a spirit body. After the divine sense sweeps over, everything in the cave is printed in his mind. This cave is not too deep, nor is it too wide. It is a mess along the road, and there are traces of struggle left everywhere. The owner of this cave obviously suffered a lot from the soul-eating insects before. After tossing hard for a while, Yang Kai didn't even know what kind of monster beast existed here, because when he rushed over, the monster beast had been swallowed up by the soul eater, leaving no scum behind. In his current state, he could no longer absorb the source of the soul, so he didn't let the soul-devouring insect leave anything behind. After taking back the soul eater, Yang Kai began to look at everything in the cave. After scanning the divine sense, there was nothing to be found. There are no spiritual fruits or other treasures in this cave at all, it seems to be just a place for monsters to recuperate. This discovery made Yang Kai a little disappointed, but he didn't care much. After all, not every powerful monster guards the treasure. But just as he was about to turn around and leave, he suddenly paused and stared in a certain direction of the cave. Over there, something strange caught his attention. After observing for a while, Yang Kai stepped forward, bent down and picked up the object from the ground. The moment he started, Yang Kai suddenly shook his body, his eyes burst into ejaculation, and at the same time he sucked in a breath of cold air. His abnormal reaction startled the purple raccoon, all the hair on his body stood up, and he ran away from Yang Kai as if fleeing. This is... Yang Kai fumbled for the thing in his hand, while letting out his spiritual sense to glance around. Soon, he figured out what the thing looked like. This is an existence in the shape of a disc, about the size of a millstone, and its whole body is as white as jade, flawless and unstained. When Yang Kai's spiritual sense scanned it before, he didn't find anything about it, but he felt that its shape was quite strange, so he kept an eye out and picked it up to have a look. But at the moment when he didn't want to start, his own soul had an inexplicable resonance reaction with the millstone white jade, which made Yang Kai's whole soul and spirit body tremble slightly. At the same time, a stream of pure spirit energy was transmitted from the white jade, which slowly poured into Yang Kai's body, making him suddenly feel as comfortable as soaking in warm water. This feeling made him feel relaxed and comfortable, and he couldn't stop, as if his whole body was about to fly. If I really want to describe it more specifically, this feeling is like what he could only have when he and Su Yan merged with each other. Soul Jade. In the mind, all kinds of distracting thoughts flashed across like lightning, and Yang Kai cried out in surprise. Although he had never seen a soul jade, didn't know what a soul jade looked like, and even heard about the existence of such a thing from Gao Shueding a few days ago, at this moment, he was 100% sure that the jade in his hand, this piece is definitely the soul jade that Gao Shueding mentioned. According to Gao Shueding, soul jade is a treasure that cannot be found even in the world of the magic mirror. She has entered this place 4 times, but so far, she has only acquired a piece of middle-grade soul jade, that's all. A piece of mid-grade soul jade has already benefited her enormously. Yang Kai didn't know how to divide the grades of soul jade, but he felt that the one he had was definitely not only a middle grade, it was very likely to be a top grade, or even a top grade soul jade. Soul jade is the purest spirit energy condensed in the world of the immortal journey, which can be easily absorbed by warriors to strengthen their spiritual consciousness without any worries or hidden dangers. It's just that Gao Shueding said it was so rare, Yang Kai didn't think he was lucky to get it. But I didn't want to, I actually started a piece here. It's so big. Yang Kai couldn't close his mouth in excitement, and his face was troubled. When will I have to absorb it? While speaking, he tried to absorb the energy in this soul jade, and wanted to see if it was as magical as Gao Shueding said. A trace of pure energy was born from the soul jade, pouring into Yang Kai's body along his arms, immediately making him feel warm all over, and involuntarily revealing the color of ecstasy. And with the influx of this energy, Yang Kai also found that, as Gao Shueding said before, the absorption of soul jade energy will not cause any harm to himself at all. His current spirit body is still in a saturated state, and he can no longer absorb the soul essence left behind by the monster after death. But there is no obstacle to absorbing the energy of this soul jade, and it will happen naturally. As for the feeling coming from one end of the soul jade, Yang Kai could also clearly feel the terrifying and surging energy contained inside this piece of soul jade. He couldn't help thinking of, retreat here to absorb the energy of the soul jade until the time limit ends. If he really did this, Yang Kai estimated that when he left this place, the strength of his soul power would definitely be comparable to that of Emperor Zunjing. At that time, the energy of the soul jade may not be able to be completely absorbed, and he can completely let the soul-devouring insect absorb it together. Sufficient time guarantee and surging energy storage can maximize the benefits he can get here. But, just when this thought came to him, another power in Yang Kai's body suddenly emerged, and in the dark cave, 7 colored rays of light suddenly burst out, extremely dazzling, and the entire cave was imprinted with colorful colors. As soon as the Xiaoguang was released and retracted, Yang Kai suddenly felt light in his hands under a scroll. The soul jade disappeared. This shocking change caught Yang Kai off guard. He was stunned and quickly looked inside himself. Soon, he found a trace of the soul jade somewhere in his body. At this moment, it is actually wrapped in a 7-colored warming spirit lotus, lying quietly in the center of the lotus. And when Yang Kai saw it, he couldn't help discovering an incredible scene. That piece of soul jade, like a snowflake under the scorching sun, melted quickly and disappeared in the blink of an eye. And the surging energy escaping from the soul jade was all absorbed by Wen Shenlian, leaving nothing behind. After absorbing the energy of the soul jade, the color of Wen Shenlian seemed to be brighter. At the same time, gentle and continuous power emanated from Wen Shenlian, slowly and methodically pouring into Yang Kai's soul and spirit body. This is, what's going on? Yang Kai was completely dumbfounded, and his head was in a daze. I just discovered that a piece of top-grade or even top-grade soul jade was actually sucked away by Wen Shenlian. After it was sucked away, it was involuntarily absorbed, and then slowly fed back into my soul and spirit body. Is this a good thing, or a bad thing? Yang Kai is also elusive. Losing the soul jade is undoubtedly a loss. But the soul jade was not snatched by others, but absorbed by Wen Shenlian, and then, Wen Shenlian slowly fed that energy back to her body. After thinking for a while, Yang Kai secretly felt that this should not be a bad thing. In this way, it seems to be beneficial to both herself and Wen Shenlian, and, although the speed of this feedback is much slower, it can be done step by step, so that she can gradually adapt to the stronger soul and control it freely. On the contrary, if I personally absorb the energy in the soul jade, not to mention whether I can absorb it in the remaining days, if I really do this, I will definitely not be able to take other actions. But now, he no longer needs to think about the matter of the soul jade, what to do or what to do. It's definitely a good thing, Yang Kai said firmly. After he finished speaking, he turned his head and looked around again, and at a corner, he found the purple raccoon staring at him in horror. Just now, the sudden change appeared, and the purple raccoon couldn't figure out the situation, and immediately stayed away from Yang Kai. Seeing that he was safe and sound at the moment, he even waved to him kindly, so he naturally walked over slowly. After confirming that Yang Kai had no problems, it jumped onto Yang Kai's shoulder again. But for some reason, it sniffed at Yang Kai a few times, and then showed a dazed look, as if it felt that Yang Kai's smell at the moment was different from before. Next, Yang Kai turned around in the cave again, checked carefully, and after making sure that there was nothing missing, she ran towards the layman. There are still many days now, so naturally he will not waste time. He had just walked out of the cave when he heard a whooping sound not far away. Immediately afterwards, a figure suddenly fell in front of him. Yang Kai was shocked, and instinctively mobilized the power of his soul, sacrificed the Ziyangzan mask, and at the same time stepped on his feet, floated and retreated. He never expected that he would meet someone else in this place. The person who came here undoubtedly didn't think of this point, and when he saw Yang Kai at first glance, he also stimulated the power of his soul and looked over vigilantly. Looking at each other, the man frowned, looking suspiciously at the purple light curtain on Yang Kai's body, with a strange expression on his face. As Yang Kai expected before, in this world, warriors have no secret treasures to use. Because they lack the materials to create refining secret treasures. The battles between warriors are all contests of spirit and soul, relying on the secret arts of the spirit and soul, and even the weapons condensed by the power of the spirit and soul. For warriors in this world, divine soul treasures are absolutely rare. After the Ziyang mask is sacrificed, a purple light curtain will be formed outside Yang Kai's body. Although it looks similar to some protective secret techniques, it is fundamentally different. The strength of this warrior who suddenly appeared is not low, and he is at the level of Daoyuan 3rd layer, so it is natural to see the clues at once. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Chapter 2220 Ban Qing. When someone came to look at Yang Kai, he also watched him vigilantly. Sweeping through the divine sense, the other party's Daoyuan 3rd level cultivation base is clear at a glance, and there is no concealment. Looking at his face, he is about a middle-aged man in his 40s, with a calm and resolute face, but at this moment, his eyes reveal there was panic. The other party has no hostility, Yang Kai can be sure of this. It's just. This is the first time Yang Kai has encountered a martial artist in the Immortal Travel Mirror world, so he is naturally very curious. After careful observation, I found that the other party's body was condensed from the energy of the soul, just like my own soul and spirit body, without flesh and blood. The world is so big, there are no surprises. Yang Kai was amazed in his heart. If you don't want to die, run away. At this moment, the other party suddenly yelled with a solemn face. What? Yang Kai frowned, he couldn't understand what the other party was saying. But the person who came here obviously didn't have the heart to explain too much. With the strength in his body urged, he fled in a certain direction and shouted again, if you don't run away, it will be too late. As soon as these words came out, Yang Kai suddenly had a bad premonition, and faintly realized that there seemed to be some powerful existence chasing this person, and that existence was undoubtedly extremely dangerous and ferocious. Thinking of this, he made a decisive decision, and hurriedly stayed away from the place of right and wrong. He was just brought into this world by Gao Shueting to practice. Naturally, he was not in the mood to intervene in the grievances and entanglements between the original powerful warriors in this world. After all, the time he can stay here is only a month at best. After thinking about it, Yang Kai had to take action. But at this moment, a sudden change occurred. A powerful coercion that only belonged to the Emperor Prestige realm was born suddenly, and fell from the sky. The coercion was as dignified as the substance, and when it was suppressed, people couldn't help giving birth to an illusion that the sky was falling. Yang Kai's body suddenly became shorter, and his complexion was extremely ugly. At the same time, out of the corner of his eye, he suddenly saw a ghostly figure emerge, appearing directly at the side of the previous warrior. This figure is not tall, but rather short, but before he appeared, Yang Kai didn't notice it at all, as if he was in that position but was not checked. When this Emperor Senior Realm powerhouse of unknown origin appeared, the brilliance flashed in his hand, and suddenly there was a dagger-like weapon. This weapon is obviously formed by the condensed power of this person's soul, not a secret treasure of the soul. The dagger flashed coldly, and before the middle-aged man could react, the man had already poked him away. There was a light bang, and Yang Kai's scalp tingled when he heard it. And the middle-aged man at the Daoyuan 3rd layer level who was about to escape had no time to make any defensive moves, so he was pierced through the chest by the other party. In the outside world, this is definitely a fatal injury, because the wound is exactly where the heart is. No matter how strong a warrior is, if the heart is touched like this, he will die immediately. Or to suppress the injury with one's own strong cultivation base, it is possible to linger on. But in the world of Shenyujing, because the living beings do not have a physical body, although this injury looks serious, it is not fatal. And after a successful blow, the Emperor Senior Realm powerhouse stood back and looked at the other party indifferently. The color in his eyes was without any emotion, as if he was looking at a piece of wood. On the contrary, it was a middle-aged man who cried out with difficulty and stood stiffly on the spot. Yang Kai looked around, and saw that the dagger was still on the middle-aged man's chest, and with the wound as the center, a strange energy filled the air, radiating in an arc and radiating towards the surroundings, converging into a complex pattern, like an inexplicable and powerful restriction. It was this weird energy that restricted the middle-aged man's movements, making him unable to move an inch. And from his wound, there is still a trace of soul energy escaping. Obviously the power is passing away. If this wound is left unattended, the middle-aged man's soul energy will definitely flow through the wound. At that time, he will definitely die. Are you the disaster star in this world? After the Emperor Senior Realm Expert succeeded, he asked lightly. My lord, what did you say? Although the middle-aged man was seriously injured by the sneak attack, he didn't dare to attack, he just looked at the other party with a pleading look, and asked blankly. That's all. Hearing the words, the little Emperor Zunjing replied dully, whether you are or not, you will know after you bring it back to the palace for interrogation. After finishing speaking, he no longer planned to pay attention to the middle-aged man. The royal palace. On the contrary, the middle-aged man heard some abnormal information from his words, stared at the other party with wide-eyed eyes, and asked with difficulty after several times, dare to ask your excellency. It's Lord Banqingban. Oh, Banqing suddenly looked at the middle-aged man in surprise, do you recognize me? Seeing that he didn't deny it, the middle-aged man couldn't help laughing wryly, and said, who doesn't know the names of the 4 deputy commanders under Lord Zhou Dian, the great general who protects the country? Since there are 4 people, why are you sure it's me? Could it be someone else? Banqing didn't seem to be in a hurry to deal with Yang Kai, but chatted with his prey with great interest. The middle-aged man said, Deputy Commander Lian Yan has red hair and obvious features, Deputy Commander Yu Man is a woman, and Deputy Commander Yuan Cheng. Rumors in the world say that Vice Commander Yuan is as beautiful as a flower and as white as jade, and as just an ordinary woman it will be eclipsed in front of him. Your Excellency is a person from the palace, and with such cultivation, I can't think of anyone else except Banqing. Ha 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 ha, Banqing suddenly burst out laughing, what a beauty, Yuan Cheng is so rumored in the world, I don't know how he would feel if he heard it. Well, your analysis is good, then the seat is indeed Banqing. Seeing that he finally admitted, the middle-aged man gave up completely, and said with a sluggish expression, seeing is better than hearing 100 times. Master Madara's concealed assassination skills are really superb. HMPH. Banqing snorted coldly, not caring about the other party's flattery. It's just, Madara-sama, I have no grievances with you, why do you? Although the middle-aged man was unable to move, he still wanted to beg the other party to let him go. But Banqing obviously didn't intend to give him this opportunity. This time, he was ordered by Zhou Dian to enter Tianyao Mountain to capture the evil stars of this world. Although he couldn't kill people for no reason, he could be seriously injured. So before the other party finished speaking, Banqing stretched out his hand and shook it from the air. The dagger stuck in the middle-aged man's chest suddenly burst into a ray of light, and then, under the influence of this ray of light, the strange energy radiated suddenly solidified a lot. And the middle-aged man felt as if he had been struck by lightning, his body was shaken, and he fell down straight, completely unconscious. Although he is not dead, he has completely passed out, and even if he wakes up, he may not be able to return to his peak state. Banqing's blow seemed to have damaged his foundation. After doing this, the dagger flew back to Banqing's hand with another swoosh, he turned around and looked at Yang Kai indifferently. Yang Kai is actually thinking about it now. He didn't quite understand what happened before, but after listening to the conversation between the 2 people in front of him, he has vaguely figured out the whole story. He even has some inferences about the general situation here. When the 2 men were talking, they mentioned the existence of the royal palace, so in the world of Shenyuzheng, there probably is a country, and this country is dominated by the king. Under the king, there seems to be a general protecting the country named Zhou Dian. Under Zhou Dian, there are 4 more powerhouses like the Emperor Senior Realm in front of us. At this moment, they should have all entered Tianyao Mountain to capture the so-called lucky star. The middle-aged man was either the target of arrest, or the fish in the pond that was affected. Yang Kai guessed that he was the latter, because judging from what the middle-aged man had said before, he didn't know anything about the cursed star. And I probably did the same. People like Banqing didn't know who they were going to catch at all, so they simply cast a wide net to catch more fish, but if they were caught by him, they would definitely not be able to escape. What a disaster! Yang Kai secretly cursed. It's rare to be able to practice in this world, but encountered grievances and entanglements among warriors here, and he was a guy in the Emperor Senior stage. It really made Yang Kai complain. You're not bad. Banqing stared at Yang Kai for a while, then suddenly smiled and nodded, with a kind expression on his face. What do you mean by that? Yang Kai asked in a deep voice. What I mean is, you have self-knowledge and know that you are not my opponent, so you didn't run away. Well, be good, this seat can also make you suffer less. Banqing old god said on the ground, saying after finishing, he changed the subject and said in a cold tone, "But if you don't know your face, you will end up just like him." As he spoke, he pointed to the middle-aged man lying on the ground. Yang Kai frowned, pondered for a while, and said, "This lord. Don't tell me that you are innocent or not." Ban Qing seemed to know what Yang Kai wanted to say, and interrupted him before he could speak, and shouted impatiently, "I am following orders. If you are really a disaster in this world, Xing, then consider yourself unlucky, if not, you will be safe." As he spoke, he stared at Yang Kai and said, "Are you going to catch yourself without a fight, or do you want me to do it? Let me tell you first, if it's the latter, I can't guarantee that you will be intact." "Is that so?" Yang Kai sighed helplessly after failing to negotiate, and asked with a heavy expression, "Boy, I still have a question I want to ask." "Speak," Ban Qing replied indifferently. "First of all, please listen to the conversation between you and this, dear friend. It seems that there are 3 other people like you. I don't know which 3 people. They led a team to search elsewhere. At this moment, Tianyao Mountain has been completely blocked, so don't even think about escaping. It is meaningless. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come read on Chuangshi Chinese website, and vote for recommended and monthly tickets for works. Your support is the biggest motivation for me to continue to create." NetEase's 2015 cultivation of Immortal's mobile game's first masterpiece, Mo Tianji, is ready to play. Restore 100% of Wang Yu's popular novel, Mo Tianji, and fulfill your dream of cultivating immortals. Log in now, start the journey of cultivating immortals and get 10 yuan for calls. Want to play? Just poke a unknown currency copyright E%, IE equals UTF-8 and TP equals 0. Chapter 2221 Shaking the Emperor. Hearing what he said, Yang Kai's heart suddenly turned cold. "Then your subordinate?" Yang Kai asked again. "I'll be there soon." Ban Qing frowned impatiently, "I like to act alone." After finishing speaking, he looked at Yang Kai suspiciously, "What are you asking for?" "It's nothing." Yang Kai took a deep breath and said slowly, "The boy is just going to offend." As soon as the words fell, his whole body had turned into a streamer, rushing straight towards Ban Qing. Yang Kai thought very clearly, since Tianyao Mountain has been blocked at this moment, besides Ban Qing, there are 3 other Emperor Senior Realm powerhouses searching in other places, and Ban Qing's men have not arrived at this moment, then now is the best time to deal with him. Escaping is unrealistic, not to mention that Ban Qing is good at concealing assassination techniques, and his movements are exquisite, whether Yang Kai can escape. Even if he escapes, where can he escape to this vast Tianyao Mountain? If one is not good, it will hit other people's hands. When the time comes, they will be pinched back and forth, and there is no hope at all. It's better to fight with Ban Qing when he is alone. If you can't beat him, it's not too late to run away. If you win the fight, then there's no need to run away. Huh, Ban Qing raised his eyebrows, as if he didn't expect Yang Kai to be so bold, not only bold, but also capable of acting freely under his own pressure. He didn't pay attention to Yang Kai before, that's because there was an absolute uptack. W filled down pointing triangle WW. Strength gap between the two. Once the might of Emperor Senior Realm came out, Daoyuan Realm warriors couldn't move at all. The middle-aged man who fell to the ground at this moment is the best proof. In Ban Qing's eyes, Yang Kai's strength and cultivation level are comparable to that of the middle-aged man's, both of which are at the Daoyuan 3rd layer level, but Yang Kai's spirit strength has to be frozen a little bit, as if he is about to reach the Emperor Senior level. But this still doesn't make much sense, it doesn't cross the threshold of Emperor Senior Realm. There is always a difference between heaven and earth. He felt that under his own coercion, Yang Kai might not even be able to move his fingers. But when Yang Kai really took action, he was as swift as a gust of wind, moving like thunder, as if he was not affected by his coercion at all. This discovery made Ban Qing a little surprised, but also a little annoyed. He snorted coldly. He stood in place without moving, but released his pressure with all his strength, covering Yang Kai with all his might. In the middle of the journey, Yang Kai let out a muffled snort, and his figure suddenly stopped. At that moment, he felt that the space around him seemed to freeze a lot, which greatly restricted his actions. Courage is commendable, but extremely stupid. Ban Qing looked at Yang Kai coldly. His eyes were full of disdain. My lord looks down on people so much. Is it really okay? Yang opened his mouth and drank, all the energy of the soul burst out, and a layer of raging flames ignited on the surface of his body. The raging flames were burning and beating, making Yang Kai look like a burning man, and the surrounding temperature seemed to have increased a lot, and the green trees even turned into dead wood in the blink of an eye. The earth became scorched. Fire of divine consciousness. Ban Qing's eyelids shrank suddenly, and he cried out in horror. The power of mutated consciousness is extremely rare no matter where it is. But it is undeniable that it has great power, especially the power of fire attribute consciousness, which has always been known for its overbearing and destructive power. Ka-cha-cha. In the surrounding space, there was a dense sound, which was the sound of Ban Qingdi's prestige being shattered. As soon as the fire of Yang Kai's consciousness came out, his own pressure was greatly reduced. Turned into a flame, he threw himself in front of Ban Qing, clenched his hand into a fist, and smashed it down fiercely, surrounded by flames. No wonder you are so arrogant. It turns out that you have some skills. Faced with this terrifying blow, Ban Qing didn't show any panic, but made a comment lightly, and then he stepped back and floated back. This retreat seems to have crossed the barrier of space, and when it reappears, it is already more than 10 feet away from Yang Kai. That menacing punch smashed through the air in an instant. Under the same level of cultivation, I'm afraid there are really few people in this world who are your opponents, but... Ban Qing smiled coldly. This seat is in the Emperor Prestige realm, are you awake? When the last word was uttered, the already dignified coercion suddenly increased a bit. The fire light on Yang Kai's body flickered wildly for an instant, and his whole body sank as if being suppressed by a mountain. Under the huge pressure, Yang Kai let out a roar, resisting the pain from all parts of his body, shaking his figure again, forcing the restraint of the pressure, and rushed to Ban Qing again. Boy, do you want to die? Ban Qing showed a serious expression for the first time, and shouted in a low voice. Because Yang Kai didn't care about his own pressure and forcibly broke through under his coercion, in fact, it would cause great damage to himself, and if he was not careful, he would end up dying. But Yang Kai didn't seem to care at all, nor was he worried about such consequences, as if he was going to risk his life. Ban Qing has never met such a person. To describe such a person, the 4 words are most suitable as a desperado. Since you can't see the reality clearly, I will let you see clearly. Ban Qing was furious, stretched out his hand and pushed forward. A powerful force burst out from the palm of his hand, rolling up a frenzy of energy, and Yang open engulf. Tang tang tang. Yang Kai's stature retreated suddenly, and there were extremely suppressed painful moans and muffled sounds from his mouth, and the flames on his body suddenly dimmed a lot. This blow, Yang Kai was obviously injured. In the realm of Emperor Zun, Yu is extraordinary as soon as he makes a move. However, with Wen Shenlian as the base, Yang Kai didn't have much to worry about. If someone else suffered such an injury, he might have already started to retreat, and he just wanted to find a place to heal his injuries. But Yang Kai doesn't need it. As long as his spirit is not broken or destroyed, under the precipitation of time, Wen Shenlian can restore it to its original state. He has crazy capital. Staggering, with a gloomy face, before Yang Kai could stand still, Ban Qing suddenly disappeared in place. Immediately afterwards, his voice sounded from the side of Yang Kai, his tone indifferent. Now, you should understand. It has to be said that Ban Qing is indeed very good at concealing assassinations. His move has no warning, and it is almost impossible to guard against. He has never seen him before he disappeared. There is no gap in time. In his hand, is still the dagger condensed from the energy of the soul, and his blow went straight to the center of Yang Kai's chest. It was exactly the same as the method he used to deal with the middle-aged man just now. But at this moment, the corners of Yang Kai's mouth were slightly raised strangely, revealing a subtle arc. The next moment, the light of purple light suddenly appeared, and a layer of light curtain inexplicably appeared on Yang Kai's body, forming a light shield to envelop him. Ding! There was a crisp sound. Ban Qing's attack hit the Ziongshuan mask, and the light curtain transformed by the Daoyuan level low-grade protective soul treasure couldn't withstand this terrifying blow. It shattered from the point of contact, and it took a blink of an eye, it turns into a little bit of fluorescence. Disappear. With just a random move, Ban Qing broke the protection of the Ziyangzan mask. This piece of divine soul secret treasure was also greatly damaged spiritually. If he wanted to use it again, Yang Kai had to use the power of the divine soul to nourish and repair it. But this is enough. What the hell? Ban Qing was stunned. Although he is one of the 4 deputy commanders of the Shenyu kingdom, he has never seen such a thing as a divine soul treasure in his life, so after destroying Yang Kai's Ziyangzan mask, his first reaction was that something was wrong. Before he could figure it out, there was a sudden humming between the sky and the earth, accompanied by the buzzing sound. Ban Qing inexplicably felt a trembling feeling. This trembling and panic came from his own instinct. It is an innate reaction to face overwhelming danger. Ban Qing couldn't help but widen his eyes, staring at Yang Kai's hand. He found that at some point in Yang Kai's hand, a knife appeared. A seemingly ordinary knife, its shape is neither ostentatious nor exaggerated, it seems to be seen everywhere. But it was this knife that gave Ban Qing a kind of fear from the bottom of his heart, and the humming sound coming from the blade was like a soul-stimulating note, which made Ban Qing extremely terrified after hearing it. The halo flowing around the knife seemed to be able to swallow his soul and make him fall into the abyss forever. Ban Qing suddenly felt that something was wrong, and he was about to pull back immediately. But it was too late. The surrounding space suddenly froze at this moment. The power of space law. Although Yang Kai entered this place with a spirit body, without a physical body, and unable to use ordinary secret treasures and secret techniques, he can still use the comprehension and mastery of the power of laws. It's just that secret techniques like Moonblade and Exile cannot be used, because the execution of these secret techniques requires the mutual assistance of source power and soul power, both of which are indispensable. This point, he had already verified when he was constantly fighting with monsters. Because these secret arts are not only the use of the power of law, but also need the physical body as the foundation and source of power. With the power of the law added to his body, even though Ban Qing is a strong man in the emperor state, his movements are still in a hurry. But at this moment, Yang Kai grinned grinningly, and raised his knife to chop diagonally. I don't know if you have noticed, my lord. You especially like to attack from the right side of your opponent and attack the heart. Is this a habit, or do you want to show your strength? Yang Kai's words sounded in Ban Qing's ears, full of ridicule. But how could Ban Qing have the heart to care about these? When the knife struck from bottom to top, he actually heard the call of death, and a breath that made his heart tremble rushed towards him. Xuanlongfang! Ban Qing shouted loudly, the power of the soul in his body suddenly pushed forward, and the next moment, a thick layer of light curtain protection appeared in front of him. This is obviously a secret technique of the soul, and its power is not bad. Warriors in the world of the immortal mirror have no secret treasures and no physical body, so if they want to improve their strength, they can only start by strengthening their own soul and practicing the secret art of the soul. It is precisely because of this reason that in this world, warriors have mastered the mystic arts of the soul to a superb level, which is not comparable to that of Star Realm warriors. Chapter 2222 Saint Insect. The Xuanlong seal is a defensive secret technique that Ban Qing comprehended on his own and condensed a lifetime of practice. Since he was promoted to the Emperor Senior Realm Cultivation Base, this secret technique has only been used 3 times, and each time the opponent he encountered was also a strong Emperor Senior Realm. But today, in front of Yang Kai, a Dao Origin Realm warrior, he had no choice but to use it again. Because he could feel that if he didn't use this secret technique, he would definitely die. There was no basis for this feeling, but it convinced him. The dragon shadows emerged, intertwined, and condensed in front of the body. In the blink of an eye, a protective light curtain that looked like a shield appeared in a square shape. On the shield, several real dragon patterns could be vaguely seen, lifelike. After performing this trick, Ban Qing felt a little relieved, and the feeling of panic and palpitation finally subsided a lot. However, cut by the blade, the unpretentious Xuanlong, who could defend against the full blow of the Emperor's Senior Realm powerhouse, was sealed in front of the sharp weapon in Yang Kai's hand, but it was as vulnerable as a piece of tofu, silently, and the solid protection was crushed. Cut it in half, the knife didn't hinder at all, it went straight to Ban Qing's chest and abdomen. If this blow is real, judging from the strange attack shown by this knife, I am afraid that a guy as strong as Ban Qing will be broken into 2. Ban Qing's complexion suddenly changed, and he didn't dare to hesitate anymore. With a push from the power of his soul, he backed away with all his strength. Laugh. A soft sound came out, and Ban Qing forcibly broke free from the constraints of the power of the law of space, narrowly avoiding the fatal blow. But there was a 2-foot-long wound on his chest and abdomen. The wound extended obliquely from his abdomen to his shoulder, almost cutting off his arm. There was no fresh blood flowing out from the wound, no sign of rolled flesh, and even no bones could be seen, but from the wound, there was pure soul energy flowing out, continuously dissipating in the world. It's a pity. Yang Kai looked at him and muttered unwillingly, he had rushed to Ban Qing twice before, just to lure the other party to relax his vigilance and then find a chance to give him a fatal blow. Although the strategy was considered successful, Yang Kai's two reckless actions undoubtedly made Ban Qing underestimate his ability, so he directly bullied Yang Kai and gave Yang Kai the opportunity to fight back. The prestige state is the emperor prestige state. When facing fatal danger, his reaction speed is not so fast. He can even dodge such a short distance and such a sudden attack. Not far from the opposite side, Ban Qing was severely injured, his eyeballs trembled violently, his face changed several times, he stared at the knife in Yang Kai's hand, and shouted loudly, "What the hell is this? Soul-slaying knife." Yang Kai flicked the long knife in his hand, pointed at Ban Qing from a distance, and said with a grin, "It doesn't hurt the flesh, it only cuts the soul." This trip into the world of the immortal travel mirror, Yang Kai only brought in three things besides the soul and spirit body. One is the Ziyang mask that Gao Shueding gave him, the other is the seven-color warming lotus in the sea of consciousness, and the third is the soul-slaying knife. This is the property of the Emperor of Worms. Back then on the gloomy star, the insect emperor caused chaos in the world, Yang Kai beheaded him, and got the slave insect bracelet and the soul slayer knife, two emperor treasures. The slave insect bracelet has a special effect on some kinds of insects. Yang Kai used the slave insect bracelet to escape from the dead several times. As for the soul slayer knife, he has never used it much. He didn't even know that this thing was a divine soul secret treasure. So when he first entered this world and checked his body, he was surprised to find Zanhundao. Even if this emperor treasure has never been refined, it is still impossible to deny its powerful damage to the soul. Yang Kai held the saber in his hand, and with just one blow, he could seriously injure a strong man like Ban Qing. If he refined it a little bit, in this special world of Fugue Mirror, he would definitely take Ban Qing's life easily. Gaining a lot of wisdom, Yang Kai secretly made up his mind, after this trip back, he must find a chance to refine the few emperor treasures on his body. He didn't refine it before because he was not strong enough, but now that he has reached the level of the Daoyuan realm, and the power of his consciousness is comparable to the peak of the Daoyuan realm, it should be no problem to refine it. Whether it is the soul slayer knife or the slave insect bracelet, it can be used in some special occasions. Damn it! Ban Qing gritted his teeth and shouted. Although he didn't understand what Yang Kai meant by, "Do not hurt the skin and flesh," he clearly realized the threat of the long knife to him through the blow just now is a deadly threat. Now that his body was seriously injured, Yang Kai was unscathed, and Yang Kai seemed to know some strange supernatural powers. Ban Qing already had the idea of retreating. Although it is always embarrassing to be scared off by a Daoyuan warrior with the cultivation base of Emperor Senior Realm, but at this moment, Ban Qing can't care about so much anymore. The most important thing is to save his life, face or anything next. In addition, the skills and secret techniques practiced by Ban Qing are all used in conjunction with concealed assassination. Generally speaking, people who practice this kind of mysterious technique tend to act cautiously at best, and they are timid at worst like rats. Their actions have always been in vain. They travel thousands of miles away, and they will never entangle and fight with the enemy. In a head-on confrontation, their abilities will be greatly reduced. If the person standing in front of Yang Kai at this moment is a strong man like Lien Yan, even if he is plotted against by Yang Kai without checking for a while, he will not retreat immediately. How can a little injury make up for the absolute gap in strength? All in all, after Ban Qing uttered that sentence, his figure flickered, and he wanted to retreat first, so he could make a long-term plan. But at this moment, Yang Kai's whereabouts suddenly disappeared in his eyes. The kid at the Dao Origin Realm was still standing not far from him a moment ago, but in the blink of an eye, the other party disappeared. What? Ban Qing was shocked. He himself is a strong man who is very good at concealment, but at this moment, he discovered that there is a sky beyond the sky, and there are people beyond people. The sudden disappearance of Yang Kai's hand is undoubtedly much more clever than his method. It is a real space supernatural power that ignores the space barrier. He quickly released his divine sense, wanting to check Yang Kai's location, but then, a cold wind came from the back of his head. That cold wind seemed to blow from the nine nether purgatory, as if it could freeze the soul of a person of. Ban Qing's eyes widened wildly. He was already aware of the enemy's position, he didn't dare to be negligent, and at the same time he hurriedly turned around. The power of the soul burst out, turned into a pure and visible attack, and greeted the rear. Boom! The violent energy collided, and Yang Kai's whole body was blown away by this blow, and the light on his body flickered wildly in the midair, while Ban Qing remained motionless. After all, there is an absolute gap in realm. Even if Yongkai used the space secret technique to take the lead in sneak attack, he still couldn't achieve the expected effect. From this point of view, if Ban Qing hadn't been too careless just now and didn't understand the existence of such things as divine soul secret treasures, he wouldn't have been slashed by Yongkai, as long as he was a little clear about the power of the Soul Slayer knife and was a little vigilant. A little bit will not be succeeded by Yongkai. Drink. Yongkai landed on the ground and let out a muffled growl. His complexion also changed several times. This kind of impact on the soul is simply unbearable. The pain is far more clear and unbearable than the pain of flesh and blood. The soul seemed to be torn apart, there was no way to suppress it, and there was no other way but to endure it. But Yongkai was smiling. Because his method worked again. When the strange sound came out, Ban Qing was taken aback, but soon realized where the sound came from. He quickly lowered his head, only to see that the wound on his body was covered with a layer of dense black dots. When he looked carefully, Ban Qing's scalp suddenly became numb. Because those dark dots are actually tiny insects, innumerable and densely packed. It would be unbearable for anyone to be covered with these bugs. What frightened Ban Qing the most was that these tiny bugs crawled into the wounds on his body, one after another, blinking. Kung Fu drilled in as much as a half. Ban Qing's face turned completely green. With his Emperor Senior Realm cultivation base, he can naturally feel that these bugs actually feed on his own strength after getting into his body and devour them wantonly. His power is constantly passing away. What is this? Ban Qing couldn't help but fell back a few steps, looked down at his body, and shouted in horror, "What is this?" Since meeting Yongkai, he has asked this question several times. For a martial artist who was born and grew up in the world of the Immortal Journey Mirror, there are too many methods and things that Yongkai showed today that he does not understand or understand. The most important thing is that even though Ban Qing didn't recognize the Soul Eater, when he saw this thing, he felt an instinctive fear. This kind of fear was buried deep in his soul and was born with him. It's like the frog met the snake, the rabbit met the eagle. When roaring, Ban Qing shook his body, forming an invisible aura that enveloped himself. The soul-devouring insect that hadn't had time to get into his body was blown away by his blow. However, the pure soul energy flowing from Ban Qing's wound is simply the most delicious food for the soul-eating insects. How can they let it go? Without waiting for Yongkai to drive them, they gathered together again and turned into a cloud of insects, wrapping Ban Qing up. A scene that made Ban Qing despair appeared. The protective aura of his Emperor Senior Realm can't hinder these insects in any way. They just lie outside the aura, gnawing continuously, and gnawing a hole out of the perfect aura in a short while cover him again, and drill into his body along the wound. Holy insect! Ban Qing suddenly seemed to remember something, his face changed drastically, and he shouted in horror, "This is a holy insect." When he spoke, he couldn't help showing a miserable look in his eyes. He had never been so helpless even when facing the Soul Slayer knife, but when facing the Soul Eater, this strong man at the Emperor Senior level showed despair. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. I have read novels for many years and played a lot of mobile games. NetEase's #1 mobile game, MoTNG, authorized by Wang Yu, is the only mobile game for cultivating immortals customized according to novels. 100% take you to cultivate immortals and fly. Today, I will also give you a great gift, and participate in the Baidu Motion GOL directly. A unknown currency copyright E%, IE equals UTF-8 and TP equals 0. Chapter 2223 Haze Valley. Traveling around the world, according to ancient legends, there is such a group of special bugs on this land. These bugs are the nemesis of all living beings. It cannot be killed, and the body that will continue to devour living beings grows stronger. These worms are called holy worms by the creatures of Immortal Wandering World. When the holy insects first appeared, there were no signs. No one knew where they came from, and no one cared, because they were still very weak at that time. But as time passed, as they continued to devour and grow, the horror of these holy insects gradually became known. Wherever they passed, all creatures disappeared, and no one dared to approach the place where they built their nests for 1,000,000 miles. In the ancient years of the rumors, there were countless strong people in the immortal world, and the third-level Emperor Zun was everywhere. When the holy insects became a kind of disaster, these powerhouses could no longer sit idly by, so they united and prepared to do their best to wipe out these holy insects that caused disasters to the whole world. How the battle went, no one knows. But after that battle, all the powerhouses in the immortal wandering world disappeared, and the holy insect that made people frightened and talked about it also disappeared. Some people speculate that those strong men died together with the holy insects, otherwise how to explain the final result? Some people also speculate that those strong men wiped out all the holy insects, each of them concealed their identities and fled to the mountains and forests. Some even speculated that the holy insects devoured all those strong people and were evolving in some unknown place. If one day, the holy insects reappeared, it would definitely be the end of the whole world. These are just rumors, no one has ever believed them, and no one has seen the so-called holy insects, let alone know what they look like. Few take the so-called holy bugs seriously. But today, here, Banqing understands that the rumors are not fabricated. There are really hopeless holy insects in this world. These tiny insects are just like the rumors. They feed on the energy of living beings and cannot be killed. To be wiped out, one can only sit and watch them slowly grow, and then sweep the world, turning the whole world into a piece of scorched earth. The ancient rumors suddenly appeared in front of him, and Banqing had completely lost his mind to fight Yang Kai. He couldn't understand at all, how could Yang Kai, a Dao origin realm martial artist, drive the saint insect to fight for him? Isn't he afraid that these holy insects will devour it without leaving any bones? There were miserable howls and stern roars, and Banqing struggled in pain, as if he had fallen into an abyss of eternal doom, facing unbearable torture. To the fear and despair of being bit by bit eaten away. As if he had gone crazy, he swayed his own power wantonly, all kinds of surprises and mysteries, and Yang Kai had never seen or thought of the mystic soul technique blooming in his hands. The surrounding space is unstable. Yang Kai quickly avoided and looked at Banqing from a distance. He also didn't expect that this Emperor Senior Realm powerhouse seemed to go crazy after shouting a word. Does the soul-devouring insect have anything to do with this world? Otherwise, why would he say that it is a holy insect? Yang Kai frowned and thought hard. Some couldn't figure out why, but the current situation was undoubtedly what he wanted to see the most of. Previously, he used the Soul Slayer knife to sneak attack, took advantage of Banqing's blind spot of vision, and used the Soul Eater to attack again. Although they were all successful, if this Emperor Senior Realm powerhouse insisted on running away, Yang Kai really had no way to stop him. The power of his space law may not be able to restrain the actions of an Emperor-level warrior. Once Banqing is allowed to escape from Shungshan and disclose his information to others, his advantage will be gone. At this moment, Banqing looks like he is insane. He is in helpless despair, and looking at this posture, it seems that he is going to the end of his life in this situation, which is very happy for Yang Kai. After all, he is a strong Emperor Senior Realm. Even if Banqing has gone mad and acted in a disorderly manner, the Soul Eater will not be able to swallow him all in a short while. Yang Kai didn't go to provoke him, just watched him from afar, waiting for an opportunity. And with the passage of time, the aura on Banqing's body became weaker and weaker, and he fell all the way from the Emperor Prestige Realm to the Daoyuan Realm, then the Void King Realm, and returned to the Void Mirror. After a full hour, Banqing suddenly stopped and stood there motionless. Immediately afterwards, with a bang, Banqing's whole body exploded, turning into specks of fluorescent light, and dissipating between the sky and the earth. Emperor Zun, fall, and at the place where he disappeared, a cloud of insects rolled, squirmed, and flew up and down. After devouring all the energy of an Emperor Senior Realm powerhouse, the soul-devouring insects seemed to have fully grown, and Yang Kai found that their aura was obviously much stronger. He released his divine sense, wanting to take back these soul-eating worms, but what made him feel uneasy was that these soul-eating worms turned a blind eye to his order and wanted to leave this place instead. Yang Kai was in a hurry. Although the soul-eating insect has not had much effect on him these years, after this trip, the soul-eating insect will undoubtedly grow up and become his trump card. In the next experience, you will also lose a means of fighting the enemy. What's more, this is the immortal world. If such existences as the Soul Eater were allowed to ravage this world, Yang Kai couldn't even imagine what it would be like in the end. In the outside world, there may be other ways to deal with the soul-devouring insects. Here, all living beings have the energy of the soul as their body, which is basically the food of the soul-devouring insects. They will continue to grow stronger and stronger, and finally swallow the entire world. So no matter what, Yang Kai didn't dare to leave the Soul Eater here. He had discovered earlier that the soul-eating worms showed some signs of resistance to his orders, and this sign became more and more obvious as they grew, but at this moment they directly ignored it. Yang Kai is naturally anxious and angry. He kept urging his divine thoughts to send messages to the soul-eating worms, but it didn't have much effect. Unable to do so, Yang Kai could only stimulate the power of the warming god lotus in his body, and in an instant, colorful rays of light bloomed and radiated towards the surroundings. And this trick really worked, perhaps because the soul-eating insects have been living on the Wenshenlian, and they have long regarded the Wenshenlian as their home, so when the colorful rays of light bloom, they buzz for a while and turn into a cloud of insects. Yang Kai flew back. Yang Kai exhaled involuntarily, flicked his sleeves, and put them into it. Standing in place, Yang Kai frowned, silently sensing the movement of the Soul Eater. Strange to say, after being taken back, the Soul Eater suddenly calmed down, not as unruly as it appeared just now. But after doing this, Yang Kai realized a problem. He really had to quickly refine the slave worm bracelet, otherwise when the soul-devouring worms became stronger, he would lose the means to enslave them. The slave insect bracelet is the secret treasure of the insect emperor, which can control all the strange insects in the world, so it is naturally the best tool to enslave the Soul Eater. Although this battle was extremely dangerous, it actually had little effect on Yang Kai's growth, because the reason why this battle was won so easily was because of the power of the Emperor Treasure and the Soul Eater, and Yang Kai himself didn't do much force. But speaking of it, Ban Qing was the first Emperor Senior Realm he killed. Even if he had no flesh and blood but only a body of spirit and soul, it was not so easy to kill him. On the outside world, Yang Kai would never be able to do this kind of thing. Thinking back carefully, Yang Kai couldn't help but feel a little scared. If Ban Qing used his most proficient assassination supernatural power as soon as he came up, he might not even have a chance to resist. Fortunately, Ban Qing received the order to catch alive, so gave Yang Kai such an opportunity. He let out a breath, frowned and pondered for a moment, not knowing what he should do now. According to Ban Qing, if the periphery of Yaoshan Mountain has been blocked today, and many warriors under the leadership of Zhou Dian are capturing the so-called Disaster Star, it is definitely impossible for him to leave Tianyao Mountain now, and staying where he is not an option. It seems that it can only continue to go deeper, hoping to escape. Thinking of this, Yang Kai secretly made up his mind. Turning his head and looking around, Yang Kai saw the middle-aged man fainted on the ground. This guy didn't know what method Ban Qing used to faint, and there was no sign of waking up until now. Yang Kai had no relatives or reason with him, had no enmity or grudge, so naturally he didn't bother to talk to him, so he let him stay here and fend for himself. He continued to search, his eyes quickly fixed on a certain direction. He grinned, and waved over there. Behind a tree, the purple raccoon looked around, its small eyes were full of spirituality. After making sure it was safe, it tiptoed out and slowly came to Yang Kai, looking at him with concern, as if asking did he get hurt. Yang Kai smiled slightly, bent down and stretched out his hand, lifted it, put it on his shoulder, identified the direction, and drove towards the depths of Tianyao Mountain. Thousands of miles away from Tianyao Mountain, in a valley surrounded by mountains. The valley is so huge and filled with fog that people who live nearby call it the Foggy Valley. The mist pervading the valley persists all year round and is extremely dense. When one enters it, one can't see one's fingers, which is extremely strange. Although this mist is harmless to living beings, once it enters it, it seems that it will completely lose its direction. From time to time, there are bold guys who want to explore the Foggy Valley, wanting to know what secrets are hidden inside, and what is so magical about it. You lose your sense of direction and get lost in it. No one ever found a way out. But no one was ever completely trapped inside. Because whenever these people are trapped to despair, an invisible force will send them out. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. I have read novels for many years and played a lot of mobile games. NetEase's #1 mobile game, MoTNG, authorized by Wang Yu, is the only mobile game for cultivating immortals customized according to novels. 100% take you to cultivate immortals and fly. Today, I will also give you a great gift, and participate in the Baidu Motion GOL directly. A unknown currency copyright E%, IE equals UTF-8 and TP equals 0. Chapter 2224 Sarutobi. No one knows what that power is. When it comes, the trapped people find that they have left the Foggy Valley and come outside the valley. Some people speculate that there is a reclusive expert in this Foggy Valley, who hides his name here. The dense fog that fills the valley was created by this expert with shocking means, in order not to let others disturb his life. And although this expert is cultivated to the sky, he is kind-hearted, so as long as people are trapped in the foggy valley, he will help them out, and he does not want to commit killing karma. Of course, this is just speculation by people living nearby. As for what is inside the foggy valley, no one has ever known. At this moment, in the very center of Foggy Valley, there is a place covering an area of about 1 mu of land, which is not shrouded in dense fog. This is also the only place where you can see things in the entire Foggy Valley. But within the scope of this mu of land, there are more than 20 graves, large and small, about the height of a person. These tombs seem to be dotted across the acre of land. In front of each tomb, there is a wooden plaque with different names engraved on the wooden plaque. Judging from the technique and handwriting, it is obvious that these wooden signs were all made by the same person. In the immortal wandering world, after death, any living being will turn into energy and dissipate in the world, so there will be no corpses left behind. Naturally, there is nothing in these graves, but there are still people standing for them. The monument is obviously for commemoration and remembrance. And if you look closely at the names on those wooden signs, you can find that any one of the names on these wooden signs is a well-known big shot in Zhenwu world. Of course, that was a long time ago. Today, these great figures have long disappeared, and the world does not know whether they are dead or alive, but they do not think that they are long gone. If it is known that the memorial tablets of these great figures are all concentrated in this place, if it is spread out, it will probably shock the world. Inside the foggy valley, there was silence, as if there was nothing but the graves of the dead. And just about 10 feet away from these tombs, in a simple wooden house, an old man with white hair and beard was sitting cross-legged, extremely extraordinary. On the surface, this old man has no trace of cultivation at all and no fluctuations in power, just like an ordinary person, but every time he swallows and breathes, he can stir up the power of the world. This person's cultivation has obviously reached its peak, reaching the legendary realm of harmony between man and nature. Suddenly, the old man opened his eyes, and the eyes were full of divine light, and the sun, moon and stars were hidden, and the beasts and creatures rushed away and disappeared in a flash. He didn't move, just swayed slightly, and then suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, the old man had already arrived at a certain place in the foggy valley. With a wave of his sleeves, a strong wind suddenly blew away the thick fog in front of him. A strange, pitch-black altar with an inexplicable appearance suddenly appeared in front of the old man. The old man stared at the altar solemnly and listened intently. A voice so small that it was almost imperceptible suddenly came from inside the altar. The old man's face changed suddenly, he seemed to be unable to believe what he had heard and verified it again, but the result was still the same. His face suddenly became ugly, with a faint sense of sadness. "It's been so many years, have you woken up again?" He suddenly looked at the altar and muttered to himself, as if he was talking to an old friend he was familiar with. "What kind of power wakes you up?" the old man said as he turned his head to look in one direction. After staring for a moment, his figure shook and disappeared in place. After a while, a rainbow light pierced the sky, and rushed out of the foggy valley towards the direction of Tianyao Mountain. In the depths of Tianyao Mountain, Yang Kai froze in place and looked around coldly. He left the place where he fought Ban Qing before, and went all the way deep into Tianyao Mountain, trying to hide in a safe place. From time to time, people found him. Although these people were not as powerful as Ban Qing, they couldn't pose any threat to Yang Kai. They were killed by his soul devourer and soul slayer knife, but it was so annoying. Unbearable annoyance, still makes Yang Kai extremely vigilant. He had acted cautiously enough by himself, but his whereabouts were still being exposed, as if those people knew his location. This made him wonder if something had been done to him, that's why those people kept chasing him. But when he examined it, he found nothing. What's more, among the people he met, except Ban Qing who had this ability at the beginning, it was impossible for others to do this kind of thing. If Ban Qing did it, when did he do it? Yang Kai thought about it, and could only speculate that when he was confronting Ban Qing head-on, he had tampered with him. And this method unknown to him was the source of attracting those people. Thinking of this, he no longer cared about any danger, so he could only go deeper into Tianyao Mountain. Unexpectedly, within half a day, he was blocked by 2 monsters. These 2 monster beasts are not ordinary monster beasts. Yang Kai released his divine sense, and felt that they had the aura of the 12th step. In other words, these 2 monster beasts were comparable to the Emperor's senior realm. Just one Ban Qing made him suffer a lot, Now that two monsters with the same strength as Ban Qing appeared, Yang Kai couldn't help complaining. Gao Shueding said that there are many existences in the Tianyao mountain that she dare not even provoke. This is obviously not an exaggeration, but to tell the truth, there are really many high-level existences in the Tianyao mountain, but Yang Kai has been on the outside before. Nothing. Of those two monsters, each one was born with extraordinary horses. The one on the left was shaped like an ape, with iron walls and broad shoulders, with unusually long arms, and thick hair tied up like steel needles. It stared at a pair of fists bigger than a baby. The big eyes stared at Yang Kai, with hot air spraying from his nostrils, looking extremely malicious. The one on the right is a pure white and flawless deer, like a divine deer made of white jade, without a trace of variegation on its body. It looks extremely magical. There is even a faint halo covering the surface of the body, which makes people feel uncomfortable when looking at it. There is a feeling of being dazzled, and the two short antlers on the forehead are dotted on it like the finishing touch, adding a touch of beauty. These two monsters are obviously of different types, but they can get along with each other in peace, and they rushed to Yang Kai at once, blocked his way, separated left and right, and blocked his retreat, which made Yang Kai amazed. At the same time, it is also a mountain of pressure. A monster of the 12th rank already has a great chance of giving birth to its own intelligence. In other words, a monster with this level of strength has already got rid of the instinct of a beast, and can think and see things like a human being. Of course, there are also some special monsters. No matter how powerful they are, they still maintain their bestial nature and are not spiritual. Yang Kai didn't know whether these two monster beasts had activated their intelligence, but he expected the other party to do this, otherwise he could only run away. And when these two monsters appeared, the purple raccoon was terrified and crawled behind Yang Kai to hide. It is just a monster of the 9th rank, facing such a powerful existence of the 12th rank, it will naturally be suppressed by nature. During the confrontation, the ape-like monster suddenly let out a heavy snort from its nostrils, accompanied by a wave of hot air visible to the naked eye. In an instant, the temperature dropped sharply within a radius of tens of miles, and Yang Kai's heart sank. Instinctively operate the power in the body. Have you played enough? The ape suddenly spoke out. Yang Kai's complexion changed slightly, and he immediately understood that the monster beast in front of him should have activated his intelligence, and his intelligence was extremely high. In this way, he has the possibility to negotiate with the other party. Thinking of this, he quickly cupped his fists and said, "This. Senior. The other party is a monster, and it seems a little inappropriate to call it senior, but Yang Kai really can't think of other names, so he can only do so." But before he finished speaking, the ape glared at him coldly. The coercion of Emperor Senior stage descended from the sky, and Yang Kai, who was directly pressed down, snorted coldly, "Shut up." Yang Kai was speechless, and didn't know what it meant, and thinking about it now, the sentence it asked before was also inexplicable. At this time, the divine deer on the right suddenly made a move. Another soft force diffused from the divine deer, dispelling the pressure of the ape emperor on Yang Kai. At the same time, the divine deer suddenly burst into light, and in a burst of distortion, it suddenly turned into a tall, white-skinned, beautiful woman wearing a long snow-white dress. The woman she manifested looks to be in her early 20s, and her beauty is not enchanting, charming, or dignified, but holy, not in the 5 elements, and beyond the holiness of heaven and earth. It is not stained by dust and dirt, and is not invaded by foreign objects. It is like a fairy who does not eat the fireworks of the world, and descends from the sky. Yuan Fei, be careful, what if you hurt the young master? After turning into a human form, Shenlu glared at the ape and said with some reproach. HMPH, you deserve it if you get hurt. When the monster that was changed into Sarutobi answered, he snorted, the thick hair on his body quickly retracted, and at the same time his whole body stood upright. While standing upright, its body parts miraculously changed, and when it fully stood up, he had turned into a middle-aged man of about 40, with a fierce face, wearing a simple shirt. Compared with Shenlu, his transformed human form is simply weak, without the slightest sense of beauty, but it cannot be denied that this method is very simple and practical. The two monsters turned into human forms. Yang Kai was not too shocked, but looked at them suspiciously, and said in astonishment, "Young master." At this moment, he seemed to understand something. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn update group at Woaishao. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. I have read novels for many years and played a lot of mobile games. NetEase's number 1 Shushan mobile game, MoTNG, authorized by Wang Yu, is the only Shushan mobile game customized according to novels. Fighting is so cool, the game of conscience has reached the top of the list. Playing today is still giving away great gifts. Participate and directly poke motion GOL. A unknown currency copyright E%, IE equals UTF-8 and TP equals 0. Chapter 2225 Captured. The woman transformed by the divine deer looked at Yang Kai, opened her lips and said, "Young master, it's time to go home." Yang Kai remained motionless and did not answer. He knew that the other party was not talking to him. The purple raccoon at the back made some noises, poked out a small head, rested on Yang Kai's shoulder, and looked at the woman. The woman pursed her lips and smiled, and said, "Don't be afraid, although the Lord is very angry this time. He said that as long as the young master can obediently go back with us, he will go around you and there will be no punishment." The purple raccoon opened its mouth and barked a few times. The meaning was unknown. Yang Kai didn't understand anyway. "Do you still dare to bargain?" Yuan Fei stared at the words, and when he spoke, he had already rolled up his sleeves, and said in his mouth, "Bai Lu, don't stop me this time. I must teach him a lesson." As he spoke, he really seemed to rush over and beat the purple raccoon up. The purple raccoon was so frightened that it quickly retracted its head, its two paws grabbing Yang Kai's back, trembling. By this time, Yang Kai had completely figured out what was going on. The purple raccoon that I encountered by accident obviously has a lot of background, because in order to find it, 2 monsters of the Emperor Senior level were dispatched, and judging from the names of these 2 monsters to the purple raccoon, the little purple raccoon seems to be the heir of an overlord in the Tianyao mountain. This overlord is very likely to be the lord of Tianyao mountain. Yang Kai was extremely shocked. Over there, one of Bai Lu and Yuan Fei sang bad faces and the other sang bad faces, and they cooperated extremely skillfully. Obviously, this was not the first time they had done this, and Zili's cowardice had already been frightened to death. Seeing that Yuan Fei was really going to rush over, Bai Lu hurriedly said, "Young master, come to me quickly, sister will protect you." As soon as the voice fell, Yang Kai felt his back loosen. The purple raccoon has turned into a ray of purple light, rushed into Bai Lu's embrace, huddled directly between her arms, poked out a small head, and stared at Yuan Fei vigilantly. This is a trick. Yang Kai looked speechless, and that Yuan Fei also stopped at the right time, glared at the purple raccoon viciously, and said harshly, "Don't let me catch you, or you will have to pull out your skin." As soon as these words came out, Zili dared not leave Bai Lu's embrace. She shrunk her body even tighter, and stuck out her tongue at Yuan Fei mischievously. "This is the 11th time." Bai Lu looked at the purple raccoon helplessly, and said, "My young master, I can't do this again next time, there are many dangers outside." At this point, she glanced at Yang Kai intentionally or unintentionally, and continued, "My lord also said, when you grow up a little bit, he will let you go out, you just wait." With a warm embrace and soft words from a beauty, the little purple raccoon naturally turned his head into a chick pecking rice, with a docile and obedient appearance. "After you go back, you have to apologize to your lord, otherwise no one will be able to save you," Bai Lu said again. The purple raccoon naturally obeyed her. The 2 monster beasts at the level of Emperor Zunjing just looked at each other, and everything was said in silence when the eyes met. "Okay, the young master's matter has been dealt with, then," Yuan Fei said, looking at Yang Kai with cold eyes, and shouted, "Boy, who gave you the courage to come to the depths of the heavenly demon mountain of?" Yang Kai looked stunned, and quickly cupped his fists and said, "Back to the senior, the boy was hunted down, and he was desperate, so he was not allowed to go deep into this place. If there is any offense, I still look at the senior." "Come on, Les." Yuan Fei didn't intend to listen to Yang Kai's explanation at all. He waved his hand and shouted angrily, "It seems that you humans have forgotten the covenant with the Sky Demon many years ago." "The covenant of the Sky Demon?" Yang Kai frowned. He just came to the immortal world to practice, not a native martial artist. How could he know about the covenant with the heavenly demon? Before that, he had never even heard of it. "You really forgot." Seeing this, Yuan Fei's expression turned cold, and he became extremely angry, saying, "Human beings are indeed untrustworthy guys, so I will send you on your way." As soon as the words fell, the power in his body was urged, and the power of Emperor Prestige spread instantly. His imperial prestige is completely different from Ban Qing. The latter is soft and feminine, while the former is fierce and domineering. giving Yang Kai a feeling that he is unavoidable and unstoppable, as if under this imperial prestige, he wants to grind it to a fine powder. Squeak. At this moment, the purple raccoon hiding in Bai Lu's arms suddenly yelled anxiously, and its two little paws were still making gestures at Yuan Fei for a while, with an anxious expression. Huh, Yuan Fei couldn't help but pause when he heard the words. The anger on his face subsided a lot. He looked up and down Yang Kai, and asked suspiciously, "You saved the young master's life?" Yang Kai immediately understood that the purple raccoon probably told him what happened before. Without hesitation, he nodded and said, "It's a coincidence." Sarutobi couldn't help frowning, showing a difficult look. According to his thinking, it is completely unreasonable for humans who dare to go deep into this place to kill one, or two to kill one pair, because it is human beings who broke the covenant with the sky demon first. But the human in front of him actually saved the young master's life, which made him embarrassed. Don't kill it against your own will, and put the young master in an unrighteous situation. If the adults find out later, they will definitely be scolded. He suddenly scratched his head and turned his eyes to Bai Lu for help. Bai Lu also frowned slightly, and after pondering for a moment, said, "Saving the young master is a great achievement, but, Junior, I see that there are many traces of the origin of monsters in your body, and you can't kill them during this journey. Are you a little monster?" Yang Kai was startled, and she didn't know how she saw it, but lying at this time is clearly not beneficial, so she could only nod her head and say, "Yes. The monsters you killed were the people of my Tianyao Mountain, and they were disrespectful to my Tianyao Mountain. There is no escaping the guilt. Then I'll kill him." Yuan Fei suddenly became murderous. Bai Lu stopped his intention with a wave of her hand, and said, "There are merits and demerits, and the merits and demerits balance out. Let the adults decide how to deal with it." "All right." Sarutobi nodded upon hearing this. As he spoke, he stretched out his hand to Yang Kai without any explanation, and sucked suddenly. Yang Kai immediately felt a strong force coming from the front. His mind turned sharply. He didn't use his kung fu to resist, but obediently let Yuan Fei catch him. In the current situation, falling out with these two Emperor Senior realms would definitely do more harm than good, not to mention whether Yang Kai has the ability to escape under the eyes of these two people. Even if he escapes, where can he go? And judging from the words and deeds of the woman named Bai Lu before, the other party is not unreasonable. With the advantage that he saved the life of the purple raccoon, he feels that his life should not be in danger. In the worst case, he will be imprisoned in Tianyao Mountain. As long as the time limit is over, he will naturally be able to return to the outside world. When he was caught, Yang Kai didn't forget to say, "I have something to tell the two adults." "Fart your fart," Yuan Fei shouted coldly. "As far as I know, there seems to be a guy named Zhou Dian who came to Tianyao Mountain, and brought many strong men into the mountain to search." Zhou Dian. Yuan Fei and Bai Lu's expressions changed drastically in an instant, and they exclaimed in surprise, as if this name was also an extremely terrifying existence to them. That Yuan Fei even raised Yang Kai in front of him, glared at him and asked, "Are you sure Zhou Dian is here?" "I haven't seen this person, but I met a guy named Ban Qing. I heard about Zhou Dian from him." "Have you met that bastard Ban Qing?" Yuan Fei widened his eyes. Bai Lu said in a deep voice, "If Ban Qing has come, then Zhou Dian must be there, and the other three are probably here too. What are they looking for?" The last sentence was asked by Yang Kai. It seems to be looking for some bad star, and the kid doesn't quite understand. Yang Kai said the truth. "Bane." Bai Lu frowned. Yuan Fei looked at Yang Kai in amazement and said, "You have met Ban Qing, how can you survive? The kid is better at escaping." Yang Kai smiled awkwardly. Yuan Fei looked him up and down a few times, not sure if he believed it or not, but on the other side, the purple raccoon in Bai Lu's arms was rolling around, looking at Yang Kai with a teasing look, but he didn't expose it, his meaning. "Not to mention whether what you said is true or not, this matter must be reported to your lord immediately. Yuan Fei, take him and leave quickly." Bai Lu greeted, then immediately turned around and galloped in a certain direction. Yuan Fei carried Yang Kai and followed closely behind. "This senior, you can go by yourself." Yang Kai was uncomfortable being carried by Yuan Fei, and quickly suggested. Yuan Fei glanced at him, but didn't say much, just let go of him as soon as he let go. Yang Kai didn't have the idea of running away, but urged the power to hang behind the two of them. These two powerhouses also seemed to want to test whether Yang Kai was really good at escape, so the speed was getting faster and faster, and they didn't accommodate him at all. And Yongkai also tried his best to catch up, but he was not left behind too much, which made the two of them a little surprised. Somewhere in Tianyao Mountain, Zhou Dian is still riding on the Jiang dragon beast, majestic, staring at a certain direction of Tianyao Mountain with deep eyes. A strong fighting spirit in his body is ups and downs, almost condensed into substance. And around him, there are 4 or 5 strong men scattered nearby. These strong men gathered into a circular open space, and in that open space, many people sat on the ground with ugly expressions. Although these people sitting on the ground were not restrained, the energy fluctuations in their bodies were suppressed to the extreme, and each of them had a trace of a prohibition seal, sealing their abilities. They were all warriors trained in Tianyao Mountain, and they were all captured by Zhou Dian's men this time. Xiao Bai, Mirong Xiao, and Shen Muji were among them. The 3 of them didn't dare to communicate with each other, they just made eye contact, conveying some unknown information. It is innocent to say that everyone just entered the immortal world to experience this time. How could they have encountered such a thing? Since everyone parted ways, the 3 of them have been hunting lonely monsters in Tianyao Mountain, absorbing the essence of the soul. Strengthen yourself. However, several strong men at the Emperor Senior level suddenly fell from the sky, captured them involuntarily, and brought them here to issue a ban. Chapter 2226 Sky Demon Valley. This innocent disaster made the 3 of Xiao Bai feel helpless, but at the same time secretly worried. They didn't know what happened to Yongkai and Sha Sheng, and whether their lives were in danger. And when the 3 of them were communicating silently, a burly figure suddenly appeared not far from the side. The figure was extremely majestic, with a head of fiery red hair, and when he came, he was carrying a warrior in his hand. Xiao Bai and the 3 of them fixed their eyes on it, and their expressions couldn't help but change. Because they found that the person being carried was Sha Sheng, and the guy who caught him was probably the Lian Yan they had heard of before. Even though Sha Sheng's strength is good, Sha Sheng still couldn't escape the disaster and was caught here together. And judging from his expression and state, he undoubtedly made a lot of resistance before, and now he has suffered serious injuries. Over there, Lian Yan carried Sha Sheng to this place, threw him into the crowd, and told his subordinates to look after him, then went straight to Zhou Dianfeng, stood behind him, and waited. Mirong Xiao and the others wanted to ask about Sha Sheng's condition and injuries, but after seeing Sha Sheng shaking his head slowly at them, they all shut up quickly. At this time, it is better for the few people not to reveal the information of mutual acquaintance. If you conceal this, maybe you can do something when the enemy is not prepared. The breeze was blowing gently on the face, which made people feel very comfortable, but Lian Yan, who was standing behind Zhou Dian, was full of nervousness and apprehension. Because he could feel the almost substantial fighting intent coming from Zhou Dian, which was a kind of strong desire for fighting instinct. Lian Yan knew what Zhou Dian was longing for. Since the founding of the Kingdom of God, the world has been unified, and there has been no war in the whole world. Zhou Dian, as a powerhouse at the Emperor Senior level, has no one in the world who is his opponent except for a few powerhouses. And among those few people, there is one of them in Tianyao Mountain. Zhou Dian's desire to kill, which had been silent for 2,000 years, was awakened again this time. Lian Yan knew that Zhou Dian was terrifying at this time, so even if he was a direct subordinate, he didn't dare to disturb him in the slightest, otherwise the consequences would be disastrous. As time went by, that fighting spirit also changed. Until a certain moment, the strong fighting spirit was slowly withdrawn, and people could no longer feel the slightest bit. Lian Yan exhaled involuntarily, his whole body almost collapsed. "How's the situation?" Zhou Dian asked without turning his head. "It's not bad, my lord." Lian Yan bowed and replied. "Not bad." Zhou Dian turned sideways, squinting at Lian Yan. Lian Yan's complexion changed drastically with this look and tone, and he clasped his fists and said, "Only Ban Qing, lost contact." Hearing this, Zhou Dian raised his eyebrows and said, "How could this be? My subordinates don't know either." Lian Yan showed a dazed look, before he occasionally sent me messages, but at a certain moment, he seemed to disappear suddenly, and I don't know if he was chasing some powerful guy. Quote. Zhou Dian nodded and said, "Well, Ban Qing's concealment skills are unparalleled in the world, and he is probably an extremely extraordinary character who can make him so cautious. Forget it, I have rested for long enough. Since I have the order of the king this time, I can't say you have to go there yourself." While speaking, he urged the Jiang dragon beast under his crotch to walk towards the depths of Tianyao Mountain. My lord. Seeing this situation, Lian Yan shouted. What? Zhou Dian looked back at him impatiently. Lian Yan said. If you go further, it will be the scope of the covenant of the Sky Demon. If I wait to set foot here it will, the Demon Clan. I'm afraid of the Demon Clan. Zhou Dian sneered, looked at Lian Yan sarcastically and said, Lian Yan, you've lost your courage. Lian Yan's face changed several times, he gritted his teeth suddenly, and said in a low voice, this subordinate will go with the adults. Zhou Dian stared at him deeply, nodded in satisfaction and said, very good, keep up. After finishing speaking, he continued to move forward. The Jiang Kui dragon beast seemed to be moving very slowly, but the speed was getting faster and faster. In just a short while, it had turned into a stream of light, and it flew by thousands of feet in an instant. In the depths of Tianyao Mountain, Tianyao Valley. This is the core of Tianyao Mountain, and it is also the residence of the owner of Tianyao Mountain. This place adheres to the usual rough and bold architectural style of the Yaozu. All the buildings are ostentatious, completely different from the structure of the houses in the human world. Outside the valley, a team of blood wolves with the strength of the peak of the 11th rank is on guard to prevent irrelevant people from entering it. Yuan Fei and Bai Lu brought Yang Kai all the way to this place, and they went without any hindrance. After all, even in the Tianyao Mountain, these two are also famous existences, and they are capable generals under the Lord Monster King. No one has long eyes dare to stop them. But for Yang Kai they brought in, the many powerhouses of the monster clan showed curiosity and hatred. This way went deep, but whenever they encountered a monster clan, they would glare at Yang Kai and grinned. If he hadn't followed the two emperors after the death of a strong man at the state level, I am afraid that he will be torn to pieces. Not long after, a group of people came to the center of the Sky Demon Valley. Here, there is a huge tree connecting the sky and the ground. The root of the giant tree is extremely wide, as big as several halls. Yang Kai looked up, but he couldn't see the top of the tree at all. Almost covering a radius of tens of miles. Yang Kai couldn't help being amazed at this magnificent scene. And after coming here, Yang Kai clearly felt that the energy of the surrounding world became much stronger, which made his soul and spirit body feel comfortable. He immediately understood that this giant tree was probably a fetish. And in a certain direction at the root of the giant tree, there is a wooden gate, which is closed tightly at the moment. When he arrived here, Yuan Fei turned his head and said fiercely to Yang Kai, boy, wait here, I didn't call you don't move around when you're here, or you can lose your life and blame others. Yang Kai nodded quietly, calmly. Squeak. Zili yelled at Yang Kai for a while, probably wanting to say something. Yang Kai smiled and nodded, don't worry about me, just take care of yourself. Let's go, Bai Lu said, stretched out her hand and pushed open the door, and walked into the exposed tree hole. After a while, only Yang Kai was left in place. He looked up at the giant tree with amazement in his eyes. At this moment, the surrounding monster races gradually gathered around, their eyes gleaming fiercely, with malicious intentions. In just 10 breaths of time, Yang Kai's place was already surrounded by 30% inside and 30% outside, and even the tree trunk above his head was full of monster race powerhouses, looking down at him condescendingly. Some of these strong monsters have turned into human forms and maintained their human forms, while others still maintained their animal forms, strong and powerful, showing their fierceness. But no matter who they were, they just looked at Yang Kai like this, at most they just showed obvious malice, and they didn't really attack him. Because Yang Kai was brought back by Yuan Fei and Bai Lu, before these two powerhouses let go, the rest of the monster race would not dare to act without authorization. Among the monster race, the division of ranks is more obvious than that of the human race. The strong have absolute dominance over the weak, unless they have an extremely powerful parent like the purple raccoon. The scene in front of him made Yang Kai recall the past. He found that no matter where they are, there seems to be irreconcilable contradictions between the human race and the demon race. Different races have different concepts, and the principle that people who are not my race must have different hearts is universal everywhere. Although surrounded by countless powerful monsters, Yang Kai still didn't show the slightest fear, but the soul-eating insects in his sleeves didn't know what to do. Maybe it was the origin of so many strong people here that made them excited throbbing. There is a trace of uncontrollable signs about to emerge. Realizing this, Yang Kai's face changed drastically, and he quickly urged the power of his soul to suppress them. And at the moment when the soul-eating worms moved, all the monster clan powerhouses couldn't help but feel a feeling of chills all over their bodies. This feeling was inexplicable, but the monster clan's instinct made them clearly understand, this is not an illusion, but something that threatens his life has appeared. This discovery made many Yaozu powerhouses look ugly, and they looked at Yang Kai suspiciously and vigilantly, as if they wanted to re-evaluate him. On the other side, Yang Kai was trying his best to suppress the soul-devouring insect, and it was inconvenient for him to use the power of the seven-color warming god Lotus in full view, so he couldn't help complaining for a while. But at this moment, a sea-like coercion suddenly descended from the sky and enveloped Yang Kai. This coercion came so suddenly, Yang Kai was suppressed on the spot before he could react. But soon he discovered that this coercion did no harm to him. Instead, the Soul Eater calmed down in an instant. The coercive master seemed to be helping him on purpose. The third level of Emperor Zun. Yang Kai was shocked. Although it had been guessed for a long time that the strength of the overlord of Tianyao Mountain would definitely not be too low, he was still very shocked when he really understood the opponent's cultivation base. This is just the world of the Fugue Mirror, a strange world. The creatures living in this world are all without flesh and blood. Yang Kai couldn't help being a little distracted, wondering if there had ever been a great emperor-like existence in this place. If they were born, how much did they know about their situation? And just when distracting thoughts flashed in his mind, a strange figure appeared in front of him, and Bai Lu appeared in front of him so abruptly. Mei Mo glanced around before Bai Lu said to Yang Kai, "Follow me, my lord wants to see you." "Thank you, senior." Yang Kai cupped his fists to signal. Bai Lu didn't say any more, but turned around to lead the way. Yang Kai followed behind her and walked into the tree hole. It was only then that he discovered that there was a hidden cave inside the tree hole. The lowest floor seems to be a hall-like existence, but at the moment it is empty, and in a corner of the hall, there is a spiral staircase, and it does not know where it stretches. Looking up, you can't see it. Less than marginal. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mo TNG was rated as 2015 Best IP Adapted Mobile Game, 2015 Most Anticipated New Game, 2015 Best Original Mobile Game, the only mobile game masterpiece of cultivating immortals, and the #1 mobile game on the app list. The hottest, purest and most conscientious, highly recommended. Android users can play for free on the 13th. Apple users want to play now, come to Motion GOL. A unknown currency copyright E%. IE equals UTF-8 and TP equals 0, get free benefits. Chapter 2227 Yiquan. Yang Kai followed behind Bai Lu, along the winding stairs, all the way up. After walking for about a quarter of an hour, the stairs reached the end, and there was another hall in front of them. The side door of the hall was opened along the tree trunk, and there was light shining in from the outside. Yang Kai glanced outside, and found that this place was several thousand feet above the ground, and everything under the ground was hazy, and it was accidentally clear. And after walking here, there was a real gaze locked on him immediately. Yang Kai was alerted immediately, turned his head to look, but saw a black-haired middle-aged man in plain clothes, with his hands behind his back, looking at him with a smile. Sarutobi, who came here earlier, stood aside respectfully, with a cautious expression. Lord of the Heavenly Demon Mountain. This idea popped up in Yang Kai's mind inexplicably, although he couldn't see anything from this middle-aged man that made his eyes shine. The other party looked like an ordinary person in the crowd, but when he saw him, Yang Kai is still able to confirm that the opponent is the third-layer Emperor Senior who made the move just now, and is also the owner of the Tianyao Mountain. Similarly, he is also the father of the Purple Raccoon. Yang Kai stood in awe, bowed his hands and cupped his fists and said, "Boy Yang Kai, I have seen Senior." Hearing that, the middle-aged man nodded slightly, but did not speak, but slowly raised his hand and pointed at Yang Kai from afar. Yang Kai hadn't figured out what the meaning of his action was. His face suddenly changed, and he hurriedly mobilized the power of his soul, turning it into an invisible layer of protection, resisting in front of him. With a soft chirping sound, a burst of strength hit his face, easily breaking Yang Kai's protection. Yang Kai was horrified, and stepped back step by step. But soon, he stopped because he found that the opponent's attack could be retracted freely, and he just broke through his own defense and didn't do it anymore. In other words, his attack did not pose any threat to him at all. Seems to be just a test. Senior, what do you mean by this? Yang Kai frowned and asked. The other party was a powerhouse at the Emperor Senior 3rd level, why did he test himself like this? He can see through what he is at a glance. The middle-aged man raised his brows, looked at Yang Kai suspiciously and said, "Why don't you use the Divine Soul's secret treasure?" Yang Kai replied, "I met a strong enemy before, the secret treasure was destroyed, and I can no longer use it." Before he finished speaking, Yang Kai suddenly widened his eyes, stared at the middle-aged man in astonishment, and said strangely, "Senior, you." At this moment, he suddenly came back to his senses. The other party's words just now mentioned the words, spiritual treasure. This is not something that the warriors of the immortal world can understand. The secret treasure of the soul is something that only outsiders have. In the immortal world, because of the lack of materials to refine the secret treasure, they will never have such a thing, let alone insight. But the middle-aged man said the name of an existence that he shouldn't know. This makes Yang Kai not surprised. "Why?" The middle-aged man smiled slightly, "You think I don't know anything?" Although these words were nonsensical, Yang Kai understood what he meant, and was stunned on the spot for a while, not knowing how to reply. But from this point of view, the middle-aged man nodded slightly and said, "You really are not from this world." Yang Kai took a deep breath, clasped his fists and said, "Senior's gaze is like a torch, it's just, how about senior?" The middle-aged man smiled slightly, and when he stretched out his hand, a long sword suddenly appeared in his hand. The brilliance flowed on the long sword, and the energy fluctuated abundantly, making it extremely extraordinary. This long sword was not formed by him using the energy of his soul at all, but a real soul treasure. Yang Kai's eyeballs were almost protruding, and he couldn't believe what he saw. In this imaginary world, a martial artist actually took out a soul treasure, and it was not a low-grade soul treasure. Judging from the fluctuations emanating from the long sword, this sword has reached the level of an emperor treasure to such an extent. The sword body is filled with imperial prestige and imperial aura, which complements the aura of the middle-aged man himself. On the other side, Yuan Fei and Bai Lu were also staring at the long sword, dazzled. As capable generals under the Lord of Tianyao Mountain, the two of them naturally knew that the Lord had a treasure in his hand, but even with their qualifications, they didn't have the chance to see it frequently. Over the past few hundred years, the two have only met twice, including today's time, it is only 3 times. Yuan Fei and Bai Lu didn't know what this treasure was and where it came from. They only knew that it was extremely sharp and powerful, and it was more than a little stronger than the weapons they had condensed with the power of their souls. They couldn't figure out why the Lord would show this treasure to a human being whom they met for the first time like Yang Kai. Moreover, what does the phrase, "people who are not from this world," that the adults said earlier mean? Looking at each other, each of them found the doubt in the other's eyes. "That's right, this is a soul treasure." The middle-aged man nodded upon hearing the words, pointed like a sword, and gently wiped the edge of the sword. "My spirituality is average. 800 years ago, I got it from a guy named Wen Zishan." The middle-aged man smiled slightly, paying close attention to the changes in Yang Kai's expression while talking, and said slowly, "I don't know if you recognize it." "So it's Palace Master Wen." The corners of Yang Kai's mouth twitched, and he suddenly understood. Because according to what Wen Zishan said, 800 years ago was the time when he came to the Qingyang Temple, discovered the miracle mirror, and stayed in the Qingyang Mountains. At that time, Wen Zishan probably also entered the Immortal travel mirror, and then traveled here for a while, and met a middle-aged man. As for how this secret treasure got into the hands of the middle-aged man, Yang Kai didn't know. "That's a very interesting guy," the middle-aged man said with his hands, with a look of reminiscence on his face. "I hit it off with this seat, and we had a good conversation. This long sword was also won by this seat from a bet with him." "Yes, but according to what you said, at that time this secret treasure was only of the top grade of Daoyuan level, and after hundreds of years of sacrifice and nurturing by me, it was able to be promoted to Emperor treasure." Yang Kai said thoughtfully, "It seems that Senior knows a lot about the outside world." The middle-aged man laughed loudly. "I just poured Wen Zishan a few jars of monkey spirit wine. He almost didn't tell me what color his underwear was. Do you think I know much?" When Yang Kai heard this, his face twitched for a while. But in this way, he was completely relieved, and he didn't have to worry about his own safety, because this middle-aged man had no malice towards him, and he also knew Palace Master Wen, and he knew the outside world. Possibly on his own hands. "Dare to ask what is the senior's name?" Yang Kai raised his face and asked with his fists clasped. "My name is Yuewen." When the middle-aged man answered, he had already put away the secret treasure, and continued, "I heard from Sarutobi that you saved the dog's life outside." It's just a coincidence. Yang Kai said the truth. That's also a life-saving grace. Yuewen said, reaching behind his back, and raised a small figure. Yang Kai fixed his eyes and found that it was a child about 2 years old, wearing a short shirt and shorts, with a pink face, and the exposed hands and legs were as delicate as white lotus root. This is a little boy with a sky braid on his head, which looks extremely cute. Little purple raccoon. Yang Kai looked at the other party and raised his eyebrows. The little guy seemed a little shy. After glancing at Yang Kai, he quickly hid behind Yuewen, grabbed his father's clothes with his small hands, and poked his head. Looking at this posture, Yang Kai was sure that he was the purple raccoon. But now he is undoubtedly embarrassed to be as close to Yang Kai as before. What did Daddy tell you? Seeing this, Yuewen stretched out his hand to pat the little purple raccoon on the back of the head, making him stagger, and flashed out from behind. Seeing this, Bai Lu immediately showed distressed expression. The little guy pouted, as if he was about to cry. Huh, Yuewen snorted softly. This sound scared the purple raccoon into a fright, and quickly restrained her crying, sucked her nose, looked at Yang Kai, and said a few babbles. You're welcome, you've helped me a lot. If I really want to say it, I should thank you. Yang Kai looked at the little guy and said softly. The kindness of saving your life should be remembered for the rest of your life, never forget it. Yuewen said while stroking the little guy's head, and said earnestly, remember this. The purple raccoon nodded quickly. Bai Lu, Yuewen called again. The subordinate is here. Bai Lu hurriedly stepped forward. Take the young master out to play, watch him carefully, and don't let him run around anymore. This little brother and I have something to talk about. Yuewen ordered. Yes, Bai Lu replied, and then waved to the little guy. This time he was very obedient. He trod obediently in front of Bai Lu, stretched out his little hand to be held by her. Before leaving, he looked back at Yang Kai. Yuan Fei also followed out. After leaving the main hall, Yuan Fei asked Bai Lu in a low voice, did you understand what your lord said? Bai Lu shook her head, turned to look at him and said, you understand. Yuan Fei's face was full of black lines, and he said, you don't understand, how can I understand? But, I vaguely remember that a guy from the human race came here 800 years ago, and talked with the adults for 3 days and 3 nights. And left. Well, I also remember that guy is very strong, not inferior to adults. Bai Lu also nodded slightly. It's so strange, what is a divine soul treasure? Why does your lord's words seem to mean that the kid from the human race just now also has it? But why don't even strong people like you and me understand it? What are you worrying about? If you can let us know, the adults will tell us. Bai Lu glared at him. Yes, Sarutobi nodded. Yeah, the little guy who was led by Bai Lu suddenly interrupted at this moment. Hearing this, Bai Lu was startled and said, young master, you mean that kid named Yang Kai used the divine soul secret treasure in the battle earlier? Yeah, the little guy nodded vigorously. Tell me what it's like. Yuan Fei immediately regained his energy and asked for a while. Unexpectedly, the little guy glanced at him, snorted coldly, and turned his head aside, as if he didn't like to talk to him. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Chapter 2228 Monkey God Wine. In the Tree Heart Hall, Yuewen invited Yang Kai to sit down. The other party was so enthusiastic, Yang Kai didn't show politeness to him, although there was a huge gap in cultivation between them, but Yuewen knew at a glance that he was the kind of person who didn't care about trifles, so naturally he didn't care about it. Then, he took out a wine jar and 2 wine glasses like a magic trick, and poured them for himself and Yang Kai. This is the monkey god wine that senior said before. Yang Kai's eyes lit up, he took a deep breath, and suddenly felt a strange fragrance rushing towards his face, and the fragrance of the wine that filled the surroundings seemed to have a huge effect on the soul. The aroma blended into the body, making myself extremely comfortable. Exactly. Yuewen smiled slightly, then took a sip from the cup in front of him, and said proudly, although the products we produce here are completely different from yours, they have their own characteristics. My Tianyao Mountain Spirit Monkey Clan spent a lot of energy and time brewing it, which is very beneficial to the soul. The glass is not full, senior. Yang Kai looked at Yuewen with some embarrassment, and pointed to the wine glass in front of him. Because when Yuewen was pouring the wine, he only gave him half a glass. Ha ha. Yuewen looked at Yang Kai with a big laugh, and said, you drink this half cup first, if you can drink more, I will not be stingy. Hearing what he said, Yang Kai immediately understood that the monkey god wine was probably quite powerful, and it was not something that ordinary warriors could drink. From Yi Quan's point of view, he could only drink half of it at most at the third level of Tao origin. It's just a cup. Thinking of this, Yang Kai didn't say any more, but picked up the wine glass in front of him and drank slowly. When the spirit wine enters, it is as sweet as nectar, but when swallowed, it is as cold as ice, and a cold feeling in the throat rushes straight to the top of the head, making Yang Kai's spirit shocked, and when the wine enters the stomach, but brings scorching power, swim limbs and bones. After several changes, the spirit of alcohol continued. Yang Kai snorted softly, feeling the changes in himself carefully. He found that the slight damage to his spiritual body during the previous battle with Ban Qing began to recover and repair at a speed visible to the naked eye. This discovery lifted Yang Kai's expression, and he swallowed without hesitation. Slow down. Seeing this, Yi Quan hurriedly shouted, fearing that Yang Kai's greed would cause any harm to himself. But as soon as his voice fell, Yang Kai put down the wine glass, and he didn't speak, just sat on the spot, closed his eyes, and there was an aftertaste on his face. Hey, Yi Quan sighed softly, and said to himself, I still want to talk to you about outside affairs, it seems that I have to wait for a few days. In his opinion, Yang Kai's mere cultivation base, drinking half a cup of monkey god wine in one go, at least he will have to be drunk for several days before he wakes up, which makes him smile bitterly. It was a good intention to take out monkey god wine, because it can also be seen that Yang Kai encountered a big battle before, and his soul and body were slightly damaged, but he didn't want to miss his own affairs. Senior, what do you want to talk about? Yang Kai suddenly opened his eyes, the light in them was clear, and there was no trace of drunkenness. Yi Quan was stunned, looked at Yang Kai with a strange expression, and asked suspiciously, are you all right? Senior, I seem to have something to do. Yang Kai smiled slightly, and while speaking, he unceremoniously reached out and took the altar of monkey god wine in front of Yi Quan, then filled a glass for himself, and then took a sip after that. He praised in a deep voice, good wine. After drinking a glass of half-spiritual wine, the damage to my soul and spirit body has completely recovered, not only that, but my soul has also been fully tempered. And the excess energy contained in the monkey god wine poured into the seven-colored warming spirit lotus, and was accepted by the treasure of heaven and earth. Just like it absorbed that piece of exquisite soul jade, Wen Shenlian absorbed the energy contained in the monkey god wine at this moment, and then slowly and methodically fed it back to Yang Kai's spirit body, so that he can continue to benefit. Yi Quan was completely stunned, with a dumbfounded expression on his face. With his level of strength, there are few things in this world that can surprise him, but Yang Kai's behavior still makes him puzzled, wondering why Yang Kai is not drunk. After all, even Wen Zishan, who came here for the first time back then, did not dare to drink the fine wine from Tianyao Mountain in this way. No one can resist this drinking method, but Yang Kai is just like a normal person. It seems, you are really different. Yi Quan quickly relieved and smiled slightly, you people outside should not be like this. Of course not. Yang Kai laughed, it's just that the kid is a bit. He hesitated for a while, not knowing how to explain it, so he could only say, there are some methods to resolve it. Yi Quan nodded and didn't ask any further questions, but when he was about to speak, he saw Yang Kai holding the wine jar in both hands, and said, thank you, senior, for the reward. After the words fell, he had already started to drink freely. Seeing him drinking heavily, the corners of Yi Quan's mouth twitched involuntarily. In less than a dozen breaths of time, Yang Kai had already drank a jar of monkey god wine to the sky without leaving even a single drop. He wiped his mouth with some unsatisfactory intent, looked at Yi Quan earnestly, and said, this wine, is there any more? You still want it? Yi Quan stared at his eyes, and said, what do you think of this, kid? Monkey wine, even for the monkey clan, can only be brewed for 100 years. What you drank before is just as good as it is. It has been a century-old achievement of the clan. Rao Yi Quan had a good temper, and was also amused by Yang Kai's shameless request. Knowing this earlier, how could he take out this treasure to entertain Yang Kai? At this moment, Yi Quan regrets that his intestines are turning green. Cough. Yang Kai coughed lightly, and said with a little alcohol, Senior's family has a big business, don't be so stingy. He also saw that Yi Quan had no malice towards him, that's why he dared to say that, otherwise he would be in the third level of Emperor Senior, and if he said that, he might cause trouble to his upper body. I'm stingy. Yuewen almost turned the whites of his eyes, a little speechless. He pondered for a moment and said, "Forget it, but if you can tell me about the outside world carefully, I will give you another altar, why not?" Senior keeps his word. Yang Kai suddenly regained his energy and asked, "I don't know what Senior wants to hear." Whatever. Yuewen's request was not too high. When that guy Wen Zishan came last time, he also told me something, but unfortunately this guy got drunk in the end and talked wildly for a while. Really, it's unbearable. Then let's start with Palace Master Wen. Yang Kai smiled slightly, coughed lightly, posing as a storyteller, and under Yuewen's close attention, he began to speak slowly. The Star Realm is vast, and it hasn't been long since Yang Kai came to the Star Realm. He doesn't know much about the entire Star Realm, and even the top 10 emperors can't even recognize it. But even so, the information he has is still not available to Yuewen. And he is interested in the information from the outside world, so he listened with great interest. From Qingyang Temple, Tianwu Holy Land, Wuhua Palace, and even Star God Palace to the entire southern territory, Yang Kai explained everything he knew. There are people and customs everywhere, all kinds of anecdotes, big and small secrets of experience, ancient legends passed down by word of mouth. Yang Kai has no way to say it, basically he can talk about it wherever he thinks, and he can do whatever he wants. Yuewen just listened quietly, and only interrupted him on some special occasions, and then asked him a few words before signaling him to continue. Everything in the outside world seems to make the Lord of Tianyao Mountain curious and yearning. The magic of the physical body and the mysteries of various secret arts and treasures are something that the creatures of this world cannot possess. They have never been able to understand what it feels like to have a physical body. This chat lasted for a day and a night. Yang Kai said that his mouth was dry, so he naturally wanted another jar of monkey god wine from Yuewen to moisten his throat. Yuewen was also extremely focused on listening. All kinds of intelligence and information that he had never had access to made him extremely fascinated. The world of Fugue is not that big, and the outside world is undoubtedly more exciting. Moreover, Yuewen is already a powerhouse at the third level of Emperor Zun, and if he goes up, he will be at the level of the Great Emperor. This kind of height cannot be reached through penance, it requires insight and chance. On the road to promotion, everything you see and hear may become an opportunity. There is no opportunity for Yuewen in Shenyu world, and the outside world may not have it, so he yearns to go to the outside world more than anyone else. Perhaps in that world that he has never seen before, he can find his own way to the Great Emperor. It's a pity that he is only a body of spirit and soul, without a body of flesh and blood, so he can't survive in the outside world for a long time. Once he leaves this place, he will be rejected by the laws of the outside world, and eventually he will perish. When that guy Wen Zishan came here last time, he told me that if he could create a body that could perfectly integrate his soul, he might not have a chance to get rid of this prison. How much do you know? At a certain moment, Yuewen suddenly interrupted Yang Kai and asked. Shungshan pill. Yang Kai raised his eyebrows and replied casually. What is Shungshan pill? Yuewen's eyes lit up immediately, and he hurriedly asked. Yang Kai thought for a moment, then said, it's a kind of panacea, and because of the special situation, you don't have such a thing as panacea. What is the panacea? Yuewen listened in a daze. Let's put it this way, there is a group of special groups called alchemists in the outside world. They can use special tools and techniques to combine some spiritual herbs and medicines into one place, remove the dross, extract the essence, and refine them into alchemy. It is a panacea. A panacea has the effects of all raw materials, and can greatly enhance these effects. The Shungshan pill is a kind of panacea? Yuewen asked with bright eyes. That's right, it's said that if you let an existence like Senior subdue it, you can give birth to your own physical body. It is said. Yuewen frowned. Yang Kai smiled and said, because this is just a rumored panacea, as far as the kid knows, no one has refined it. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations, monthly tickets, your support is my greatest motivation. Mo TNG was rated as 2015 Best IP Adapted Mobile Game, 2015 Most Anticipated New Game, 2015 Best Original Mobile Game, the only mobile game masterpiece of cultivating immortals, and the #1 mobile game on the app list. The hottest, purest and most conscientious, highly recommended. Android users can play for free on the 13th. Apple users want to play now, come to Motion GOL. A unknown currency copyright E%, IE equals UTF-8 and TP equals 0, get free benefits. Chapter 2229 I found it. Why? Yuewen was suddenly very angry, those alchemists are all trash. Yang Kai said helplessly, as the saying goes, it is difficult for a clever woman to cook without rice. Refining Shungshan pill requires a main material called Shungshan fruit, which is an extinct thing. Without this kind of spiritual fruit, how to refine Shungshan pill? How could this be? Yuewen couldn't accept Yang Kai's explanation, isn't the outside world vast and rich in resources? Yang Kai smiled and said, although it is said so, there are some things that cannot be sought after all. Yuewen suddenly showed disappointment, and he didn't slow down for a while, but soon, he seemed to realize something, looked at Yang Kai excitedly and said, you know so much about this Shungshan pill, could it be you? Is that the kind of alchemist? Well, Yang Kai nodded, and understood what Yuewen was up to, so he continued without waiting for him to say, but to let seniors know, alchemists are also divided into levels, just like warriors. The cultivation base is the same, different levels can refine different pills, the Shungshan pill is an emperor-level pill, and it needs an emperor-level alchemist to refine it, and the kid is now, just a Daoyuan-level alchemist. Quote. So what? Yuewen snorted, I'm watching you, you are already extraordinary at such a young age, if you give you some time, you may not have the opportunity to grow to the emperor level. Well, until then, how about you refining the life body pill for me? Yang Kai smiled wryly and said, then there must be materials. Look for it, Yuewen said as a matter of course, I am not afraid of waiting, I can wait. When you find the Shungshan fruit, you can refine the Shungshan pill. Now I just need you to agree to this matter. Seeing his demeanor, Yang Kai couldn't help but become serious, pondered for a moment and said, since the senior said so, the kid will do his best, but the senior may have to wait for a long time, or there may be nothing in the end. No problem, Yuewen waved his hand and said, as long as you have the heart. Speaking of him, he seemed to have seen hope, and said, come, I will give you this altar of wine. After the words fell, another jar of monkey god wine was placed in front of Yang Kai. Yang Kai grinned, unambiguously, and started drinking directly. In such a short period of time, the 3 altars of monkey god wine entered his stomach, and Yang Kai had the 7-color warming god lotus as a base, so he couldn't help but feel a little dizzy at this moment. Yuewen looked at him with more friendly eyes, and when he was about to wave his hand to call someone to take Yang Kai down to rest, his expression turned cold, and he turned his head to look in a certain direction. Yang Kai noticed that there was something strange in his expression, so he couldn't help but looked at him suspiciously. Yuewen didn't move, just waited and watched quietly, and after a while, he said in a cold voice, yes. Senior, what happened? Yang Kai asked, but before Yuewen could answer, he saw a strong monster clan flying in from outside, clasped his fists, and hurriedly said, my lord, there are strong clansmen attacking, and the blood wolf elite is blocking them, but the coming person is extremely powerful, look at that the child seems to be. I understand. Yuewen nodded coldly, and ordered, tell the blood wolf to retreat, they can't stop him, let him in. The strong man of the monster clan didn't hesitate at all when he heard the words, and immediately retreated after saying yes. Yang Kai also came back to his senses at this moment, and his face was ugly, could it be? Zhou Dian came in person. With Quanshou as the transcendent, there is no one else who can make him value the strong human race except Zhou Dian. His conjecture came true, Yuewen nodded and said, yes, it is indeed him. He even risked destroying the agreement with the heavenly demon to break into my heavenly demon valley. Could it be that he came here for you? Me? Yang Kai stretched out his finger to his nose, most of the wine was sober, he smiled and said, isn't it possible, the boy only came here more than 10 days ago, and he didn't even know there was Zhou Yu before that. Dian, why did he come for me? I don't know about this, but... Yuewen suddenly swayed as he walked up to Yang Kai, and patted him on the shoulder with one hand. Yang Kai's expression was slightly startled, but he also knew that Yuewen would not harm him, so he had no intention of resisting. A gentle force came from the shoulders, moving through all the limbs. In a short while, Yuewen said with an ugly expression, sure enough, someone tampered with it, but I was negligent. At this point, Yuewen's hand suddenly trembled. At the same time, Yang Kai let out a muffled snort, but he clearly heard a strange sound coming from his body, and then, his whole body relaxed inexplicably, as if breaking free from some shackles. Guzi told me that you once met Ban Qing, but you used some means to kill him. Ban Qing is proficient in concealment and assassination, and he is also good at tracking. A mark has been planted on his body. Zhou Dian came after this mark. Yang Kai's expression sank when he heard this. Before, he suspected that Ban Qing had tampered with him, but with his strength, he couldn't find out. Now it seems that it is not a fluke that those warriors can always find his whereabouts. It's just, judging from Yikuan's words just now, he seems to have known some secrets about himself, but he just hasn't revealed them. I have caused trouble for Senior. Yang Kai said apologetically. Yikuan waved his hand and said, you don't need to be like this, you are the savior of Guzi, I should treat you well, but Zhou Dian. Huh, you are so arrogant and conceited. After finishing speaking, he continued, as for the methods you showed in killing Ban Qing, I can only tell you that those bugs should never be left here. If you have a chance to enter this place next time, before you can completely control them, absolutely don't bring them in. This place was almost destroyed because of this kind of bug. Yang Kai said in shock. There are also soul eaters here. You call it a soul-eating bug? Yikuan showed a look of fear. No matter what it is called, it is the nemesis of this world. The bugs you have now are not strong enough, so I can help you a little bit earlier. You suppress one or two, but it's just suppressing, but if it really grows up, even this seed will become their food. Boy knows. Yang Kai nodded seriously. Just remember it, Yikuan urged in a deep voice. Yikuan. But at this moment, a heaven-shattering sound suddenly came from outside. The sound was actually not too loud, but it was full of energy. It was as deafening as thunder. In the ears of a demon clan, those with weaker strength even had pain in their ears and blood oozed out. HMPH. Yikuan turned his head fiercely, glaring at the place where the voice came from, and the supreme divine power was contained in the voice, turning into an invisible attack and attacking there. Zhou Dian, who gave you the courage, in my heaven Yaogu yelled. Hehehehe, ha 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 ha. Zhou Dian laughed loudly. Initially it was peaceful, but with the ups and downs of Zhou Dian's emotions, it gradually became crazy and even crazy. Boom boom boom. There were bursts of cracking sounds outside, piercing the void and making the whole world tremble. Yang Kai stood there with an ugly expression, only feeling that his spirit body was extremely unstable, and the light flickering on the surface of his body was flickering. He was so shocked that he quickly mobilized his power to protect himself. This makes me feel a little bit better. After he regained his senses, Yikuan was no longer around him. He rushed out of the tree heart hall in a hurry, suspended in midair, and looked around. Soon, he saw Yikuan and Zhou Dian. In a place about 50 miles away from him, Yikuan, the supreme monster of the monster clan, stood there quietly, with his body still and his breath restrained, making people feel as if they were facing an abyss. And not far in front of Yikuan, a burly figure riding an extremely handsome monster looked down at Yikuan from a height. Zhou Dian. Even though Yang Kai has never met this person, he still knows who he is. Only Zhou Dian can make Yikuan treat him so seriously. Behind Zhou Dian, a tall, red-haired Emperor Senior Realm powerhouse stood behind him. His fiery red hair was extremely distinctive, and Yang Kai immediately understood that this person was Lian Yan. Around these two strong human races, there were countless strong monster races scattered around. Each of these monster races stared at the two of them with fierce eyes and full of hostility. But none of the Yaozu dared to act rashly. Zhou Dian was calm, even Lian Yan didn't feel the slightest sense of nervousness, he just showed a disdainful smile, looked around, and from time to time collided with the eyes of the powerful monster clan, and his eyes were provocative. Very good. I haven't seen you for many years, Yikuan, you still look good, which makes me very pleased. Zhou Dian spoke first, with a smile on his face, as if standing in front of him was not a life and death enemy, but an old friend whom he hadn't seen for a long time. Yikuan sneered, and said, I am still the same, I just don't know if Zhou Dian's injury has healed. As soon as these words came out, the smile on Zhou Dian's face disappeared suddenly, and a heart-piercing chill fell from the sky, as if to freeze everything in this world. He took a deep breath, slowly closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, his face had returned to calm. Seeing this, Yikuan couldn't help raising his eyebrows. Yikuan, if possible, this general doesn't want to come to your Sky Demon Valley, but this time, this general is ordered by the king and has no choice but to come. Zhou Dian said. Your order is none of my business. The covenant of the heavenly demon, the human race is not allowed to set foot within 30,000 miles of the Tianyao mountain. This is a matter of agreement between the two races. Today, you personally broke it. The trust of the human race is really at stake. Is it not worth mentioning? Yuewen looked angry and shouted loudly. Zhou Dian said, "Today, this general is only here for one person. If you hand it over, this general will retreat immediately. I will definitely not embarrass you and the powerful people in Tianyao Valley. You should have seen that this general has not killed anyone in Tianyao Valley. One person is enough to demonstrate the sincerity of this general. Is the Sky Demon Valley a place where you can come and leave whenever you want?" Yuewen raised his brows. "I also know who you are here for, but he is one of the people on my seat. Bin, want to take him away? Ask me if I agree. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile users please go to read. Mo TNG was rated as 2015 Best IP Adapted Mobile Game, 2015 Most Anticipated New Game, 2015 Best Original Mobile Game, the only mobile game masterpiece of cultivating immortals, and the #1 mobile game on the app list. The hottest, purest and most conscientious, highly recommended. Android users can play for free on the 13th. Apple users want to play now, come to Motion GOL. A unknown currency copyright E%. IE equals UTF-8 and TP equals 0, get free benefits. Chapter 2230 The Battle of Emperor Zun. Guest here. Zhou Dian raised his eyebrows when he heard this, looked at Yuewen teasingly, and said, "Are you joking?" Quote. He thought that Yuewen was just talking casually. After all, even after 50 miles away, he could still see Yang Kai's figure clearly, understand Yang Kai's cultivation level. How could such a human kid be able to become Yuewen's guest of honor? "I'm not in the mood to joke with you." Yuewen snorted coldly. "Get out of my heavenly demon valley quickly, or don't blame me for being rude to you. It seems that this person, you don't intend to hand it over." Zhou Dian looked at Yuewen coldly with his eyes slightly lowered. Yuewen snorted coldly, said no more, and slowly mobilized all his strength. Speaking up to this point, the two powerhouses all know that it is useless to rely on lip service, and only the underlings can see the truth. Everything between the heaven and the earth seemed to freeze at this moment. The gazes of the two powerful third-layer emperors touched each other, splashing invisible sparks, bursting into the void. Seeing that the situation was not good, many strong men of the monster clan used their body skills to scatter around without looking back. The same is true for Lian Yan. His whole body directly turned into a red light, and he retreated tens of miles away in a short time. The supreme fighting spirit filled the air, the shocking imperial prestige descended, the space began to tremble, and the gravel on the ground slowly floated up. Even after 50 miles away, Yang Kai still felt chills all over his body. If he didn't have a flesh and blood body, even breathing would be a luxury at this moment. In the blink of a figure, Yuan Fei and Bai Lu appeared beside Yang Kai, Yuan Fei and Bai Lu, one from the left and the other from the right, and nodded slightly at him. The two no longer had the previous hostility and rejection, and the purpose of coming here was only to protect Yang Kai. "Where is the purple raccoon?" Yang Kai asked. "The young master has already settled in a safe place." Bai Lu replied softly, "Young Master Yang, don't worry." She even changed her address to Yang Kai, obviously because of Yuewen's previous guest. Yang Kai nodded slightly, using his strength in his eyes, and looked into the distance. This is a battle between the powerhouses at the third level of Emperor Zun. If he can watch it for a while, it will definitely be of great benefit to him, so he doesn't want to miss this exciting event anyway. But at this moment, Zhou Dian has moved. With a leap, he flew up from the mount under his crotch and rushed to a high place. A ball of light burst out from his body, and when the light dissipated, a Fang Tian painted halberd appeared in Zhou Dian's hand. That Fang Tian's painted halberd is more than 3 feet long, as thick as a human arm, and it is powerful and powerful, sweeping the spiritual energy in all directions, as if it has the ability to stir up the world. As soon as Fang Tian painted the halberd, Zhou Dian's aura increased steadily, and the energy on the surface of his body was tumbling like boiling water. This is not a secret treasure of the soul, but a weapon that Zhou Dian condensed with the power of his own soul. It's just that Fang Tian's painting halberd has followed Zhou Dian for many years and sacrificed it for him with secret methods. Although it is not a secret treasure of the soul, it has many wonderful uses. It doesn't even lose to any divine soul secret treasure. Holding the halberd in his hand, Zhou Dian laughed wildly, his whole body turned into a stream of light, swooping towards Yuewen. The sound of roar resounded through the heaven and earth. "Yuewen, let General Ben see if you have improved over the years." This blow, like a shock, like a meteor, is about to break through the world. Every warrior who waits and sees, no matter how high or low his cultivation level is, only feels a sharp pain in his eyes, as if he is about to be stabbed blind. It's even colder. Yang Kai was shocked. Although he has also seen the demeanor of several Emperor Senior 3-level realms during this period of time, he has never seen such a strong man attacking with all his strength. Only at this moment did he understand how powerful the Emperor Senior 3-level realm is. That is an existence that is almost invincible in the world. But in the face of this shocking blow, Yuewen just stood there, motionless, staring at the front with contemptuous eyes as if he didn't pay attention to Zhou Dian at all. Chi. A thick energy column visible to the naked eye rushed out from Fang Tian's painted halberd and turned into a dragon shape, roaring out a dragon's chant, and leaping down towards Yuewen with baring teeth and claws. It seems, Yuewen said lightly, you have healed your scar and forgot the pain. You forgot about the battle 2,000 years ago. When the words fell, Yuewen flicked his fingers. The thin gadfly-like attack flew out in response, meeting the dragon-shaped energy. It seems that the gap between the two is immeasurable, giving people a feeling that a gnat may shake a big tree. However, when the gadfly-like attack met the dragon shape, it burst out with dazzling light. The light of that light covered everything in the world and devoured the giant dragon. The dragon roared again and again, and Zhou Dian's face changed wildly. Step on the ground with the spring and disappear. Ding! There was a soft sound, and when everyone came back to their senses, they were shocked to find that Yuewen had already deceived himself in front of Zhou Dian, holding a long sword and stabbing Zhou Dian's Fangtian painted halberd, splashing a cloud of water. Spark! Zhou Dian looked at the long sword with a dazed look on his face. When he fought with Yuewen 2,000 years ago, the opponent did not use such a weapon, and this long sword did not look like it was condensed with the power of the soul at all, and he did not know what kind of treasure it was. However, the doubt is only for a moment. For a strong man of this level, any hesitation may lose his life, so Zhou Dian quickly restrained his mind. At the same time, a stream of pure soul power leisurely burst out and bombarded Yuewen. It's unknown what kind of exquisite soul secret technique he used. Yuewen's complexion was solemn, and the spirit power in his body was also fluctuating, which was resolved with the mystery of the spirit. Both of them are strong at the Emperor Senior 3rd layer level. Even if there is a slight difference in strength, it is not that big, so although this competition is inadvertently clear to others, it is definitely extremely dangerous. One person and one monster, the long-cherished wish of 2,000 years finally collides today, bursting out dazzling sparks. When the spirits and souls collided with each other, the light on both of them flickered wildly, and the movements of their hands did not idle at all. When the long sword and the painted halberd collided, there was a dense clanging and crisp sound. The sword stabs, picks, cuts, raps, cuts, soft and flexible, the halberd cuts, hooks, chops, powerful and powerful, two great soldiers, two strong men, seemed to stir up the world. In an instant, the battle became a mess. Figures staggered, flickering back and forth, gold and iron mingling, clang bursts. The sword is complex and soft, the sword shines like a star, and shoots in all directions, making people overwhelmed. The halberd is a mighty and domineering force. The halberd is like a sea wave. Secret techniques, energy, and exquisite body shape interweave a scene that makes people mesmerized, gorgeous and colorful. All the onlookers watched intently. In that battlefield, time seemed to become erratic. I saw that one person and one demon sometimes moved as slowly as a turtle crawling, and sometimes moved as fast as lightning. Mind of the reader. In the end, there was a monster strongman who couldn't bear it. His face darkened, and he took a few steps back, covering his chest with his hands as if he had suffered some trauma, and slowly closed his eyes, not daring to look again. And as time goes by, this happens to more and more people. In the beginning, it was just like this for warriors at the first level of Daoyuan, and then it was the second level, and the third level. After a stick of incense, even an emperor like Yuanfei Beilu had to mobilize his own strength to resolve the discomfort in his body, and he continued to wait and see with his spirit. They also don't want to miss this wonderful battle. In a daze, Yuanfei caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of his eye, and quickly turned his head to look at Yang Kai. The next moment, Yuanfei's mouth suddenly opened wide, showing a dumbfounded expression. Because he found that Yang Kai's eyes were wide open, staring at the battlefield for a moment, and in a pair of clear eyes were the figures of the two strong men fighting dozens of miles away, as if they were not affected at all. Not only that, but he also showed a pensive look from time to time. Yuan Fei was stunned by this scene, and couldn't help poking Bai Lu quietly. "What are you doing?" Bai Lu was interrupted by Sarutobi while she was closely watching the battle over there, so she shouted sullenly. Yuan Fei pouted to the side. Bai Lu looked suspiciously, and the next moment showed a look of astonishment. "This kid is very weird," Yuan Fei said to Bai Lu in a low voice. As strong as the two of them, they felt uncomfortable at the moment. At most watching the battle for a while is the limit, but Yang Kai, who is weaker than them, is safe and sound. How can people not care? "The person your lord likes is really extraordinary." Bai Lu nodded slightly. While the two were discussing quietly, suddenly a stream of pure soul energy diffused from Yang Kai's body, covering him in turn, and from that soul energy, gradually derived an inexplicable way an unknown flavor. Yang Kai's whole person seems to be undergoing some magical changes quietly. "Emperor's will," Yuan Fei exclaimed in surprise. He actually touched the Emperor's will. At this moment, Sarutobi obviously noticed something, and shouted in surprise. Bai Lu also stared at Yang Kai with beautiful eyes, and nodded slightly after a while. "That's true. Although it is still very superficial, but it is indeed the Emperor's will. Is it possible that he wants to be promoted to the throne here?" As soon as this thought came out, Bai Lu was startled. Promotion in Shenyu world is not that simple. Every promotion is a life and death situation. One carelessness is the result of the soul flying away, because the creatures here have no flesh and blood, and cannot rely on the power of flesh and blood to resist the energy of the world. The baptism of a person, relying on everything, is only one's own soul, which is naturally much more difficult than the promotion of outside warriors. Right now Yiquan was still fighting. If something happened to Yang Kai because of his promotion, they would not be able to explain to Yiquan. For a moment, Bai Lu couldn't help feeling anxious. She was obviously thinking too much. Yang Kai is not a creature of a mortal wandering world. Although he entered this place with a spirit body, he still has his own physical body. Even though he was infected by the battle between the two powerhouses and touched a little bit of the Emperor's will, his physical strength has not improved. Before reaching a certain level, even if he can break through the strength of his own spiritual consciousness to be comparable to the existence of the Emperor's senior realm, it is impossible to truly reach that level. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn update group at woixiaowati. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. MoTNG was rated as 2015 Best IP Adapted Mobile Game, 2015 Most Anticipated New Game, 2015 Best Original Mobile Game, the only mobile game masterpiece of cultivating immortals, and the #1 mobile game on the app list. The hottest, purest and most conscientious, highly recommended. Android users can play for free on the 13th. Apple users want to play now, come to MotionGOL. Unknown currency copyright E%. IE equals UTF-8 and TP equals 0, get free benefits. Chapter 2231 Escape. There is a hurdle between Daoyuan realm and Emperor Venerable realm. If one compares the soul power of a martial artist in the Dao origin realm to a wooden stick, then the Emperor senior realm is an iron stick, and the latter is naturally better in terms of sturdiness. The difference between Daoyuan first level, second level, and third level is only the thickness and length of the wooden sticks they have. If you want to promote your own wooden stick to an iron stick, you must cross that hurdle. Yang Kai is now in the middle of the hurdle, and he hasn't completely crossed it, but because he touched the Emperor's will, his wooden stick has been plated with a layer of iron, and has a little bit of qualifications that can only be possessed by the Emperor. However, it is very different from the real Emperor senior realm. But that's enough. Besides him, who else in this world has touched the existence of the Emperor's will in the realm of Daoyuan first level cultivation? Even the top 10 emperors who are famous in the entire Star world can't do this kind of thing when Yang Kai is at this level. Touching the Emperor's will in advance will naturally have great benefits for his future growth. Yang Kai is still watching the battlefield intently. The double impact on vision and soul that is unbearable to others, is like a breeze to him, so there is no need to care too much. Because as soon as the impact was transmitted to his spirit body, it had already been neutralized by the 7-color warming spirit lotus, and it would not have any impact on him at all. Time passed slowly. Yang Kai's harvest is getting bigger and bigger, and in the battlefield, the battle between the two powerhouses has obviously entered a feverish level. Zhou Dian roared again and again from time to time. His anger was unstoppable. Yi Quan's expression was dignified, and he was no longer the same as before. Relaxed, flickering long sword, repeated secret techniques, fighting endlessly with Zhou Dian. With Yang Kai's cultivation and eyesight, he couldn't tell which of these two people was stronger and who was weaker, and who had the upper hand, only felt that the two of them were evenly matched. But, judging from Zhou Dian's gradually agitated voice, it seems that he has lost a little bit of the wind. It's no wonder, from the few words he heard earlier, Yang Kai speculated that Zhou Dian and Yi Quan fought once 2,000 years ago, and that time should have ended with Zhou Dian being injured and Yi Quan winning. Now that 2,000 years have passed, both of them have grown up, but Yi Quan has obtained an emperor-level spiritual treasure, which naturally adds an advantage to his own strength. It is only natural that Zhou Dian can be suppressed. But if you want to tell the winner, it's difficult. Yang Kai estimated that even if these two fought for 10 days and a half months, they might not be able to end the battle. He is also happy to see this situation, because in this way, he will have a lot of time to continue to wait and see, and continue to study. At this moment, Yang Kai frowned, keenly aware that there seemed to be a trace of abnormal power fluctuations in the space. His face darkened, he turned his head to look at Bai Lu and Yuan Fei, and found that they did not respond. Suddenly thought it was just an illusion of his own, and when he was about to continue to focus on watching the battle, Yang Kai suddenly discovered something, his face changed drastically and he shouted at the front, "Senior, be careful." Before he finished shouting, another figure suddenly appeared in the scorching battlefield. This figure was tall and mysterious. The whole body of the visitor was wrapped in a black cloak, and his body shape could not be distinguished. Moreover, he was wearing a grimace mask on his face, which made him look extremely terrifying. There was no sign of this person appearing, even Yi Quan and Zhou Dian and other powerhouses couldn't find any traces. If Yang Kai hadn't cultivated space power and was proficient in space supernatural powers, he probably wouldn't have been able to detect it. Although the other party acted secretly, Yang Kai was keen to grasp the space fluctuation that came here and stirred up it. But his words were still too late. As soon as this ghost-faced man appeared, he came to Yi Quan's side, slowly pushed out his palm, and slammed towards Yi Quan. Yi Quan's face changed drastically, and as soon as he retracted the long sword, he stabbed to the side, trying to use offense as defense. He had already used all his strength in this attack. On the edge of the sword, energy surges like a tsunami, seemingly capable of swallowing the world. That grimacing man's blow was barely blocked. But Zhou Dian took the opportunity to kill. Feng Tian's painted halberd pierced through Yi Quan's whole body protection, and directly opened a hole in his shoulder. Yi Quan groaned, his body retreated suddenly, and when he stood still, he stretched out his hand and patted his shoulder repeatedly, trying to relieve the injury. But how could Zhou Dian attack with all his strength, and how could it be easily dispelled? The vigor that shook Yi Quan's body had obviously injured him badly, and the pure soul energy escaped from the wound, flowing here between heaven and earth. My lord! Bai Lu, Yuan Fei and other monster powerhouses, expressions changed drastically, and they exclaimed in surprise. While their bodies were shaking, they rushed over to help. Yi Quan raised his hand to stop their movements, and looked at the grimacing man who suddenly appeared with a slightly calm gaze, his expression fluctuating. Zhou Dian didn't seem to have thought that this ghost-faced man would appear here, and even took advantage of the battle between himself and Yi Quan to attack him. If it wasn't for this man's interference, it would be impossible for him to hurt Yi Quan. Zhou Dian was displeased by the other party's approach, feeling that it had tarnished the sacred battle, so Zhou Dian didn't dare to neglect in the slightest. He cupped his fists, bowed and said, "Your Majesty, why are you here?" "Here to meet you," the ghost-faced man replied slowly. His voice was hoarse, like metal friction, making it extremely uncomfortable to hear. "But my subordinate," Zhou Dian seemed to want to argue. The ghost-faced man interrupted him directly, and said, "No need to say more, take people back to the palace, I am here." The order of the king had to be obeyed. Zhou Dian could only grit his teeth, and said in a deep voice, "Yes." After saying those words, he glanced at Yi Quan helplessly, before swaying his body and galloping towards where Yang Kai was. Yi Quan turned his head slightly, looked at Yang Kai, and burst out a concise word, "Flee." Yang Kai also reacted quickly, although the incident in front of him was extremely sudden, but in this short period of time, he had vaguely deduced everything. This ghost-faced man was undoubtedly Zhou Dian's master, and he was also the one who ordered him to be arrested. This person can not only order Zhou Dian to act for him, but he is obviously also a strong person at the third level of Emperor Senior. And from the appearance of this person before, and the method of sneak attacking Yi Quan, his strength is probably stronger than Yi Quan's. With this person restraining Yi Quan, Zhou Dian is no longer invincible. Why would Yongkai hesitate? When Yuewen said the escape word, his body was already shaking, and his speed was tens of thousands of feet. At this moment, he has already used the space magic power. In front of Zhou Dian, a strong third-layer Emperor Senior, he couldn't think of any other way to escape except to use space magic power. While Yongkai was leaving, Bai Lu and Yuan Fei also stood side by side, blocking Zhou Dian's way forward. Seeing the powerful enemy approaching, the two strong monster clan couldn't help but let out a deep shout, and their bodies appeared amidst the flashes of light. Roar! When Yuan Fei yelled loudly, he had already moved towards Zhou Dian, wanting to stop him. But Bailu was covered in white light all over her body, and she did not know what kind of mysterious original secret technique she had used to turn a radius of 30 miles into a pure white world, making it impossible to tell the difference between east, west, north, and south. Whoever blocks me will die. Zhou Dian shouted angrily, and Fang Tian's painted halberd was flying in his hand. Chi 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 chi. The sound of piercing the void came out. Before Yuan Fei got close to Zhou Dian, he was sent flying by an inexplicable attack, and fell far away, his life and death unknown. The difference in strength between the two is too great. Yuan Fei is not the general of Zhou Dian at all. And there was a crackling sound from that pure white world, but within 2 breaths, it was already shattered. Bai Lu's figure reappeared, but the light on her body was extremely dim. Zhou Dian turned into a streamer and flew over the heads of the two without even looking at them, chasing after Yongkai. You run so fast. Zhou Dian couldn't help but be amazed as he looked at the figure in the extreme distance. He thought that it would not be an easy task for a strong man like himself to capture Yongkai, but when he really did it, he discovered that this kid who only had a Daoyuan third layer could have a magical secret technique, and the secret technique was cast when he came out. He simply ignored the barrier of space and quickly escaped from one place to the next. During the little time he was delayed by Yuan Fei Bailu, Yongkai almost escaped from the scope of his spiritual sense investigation. It's interesting. Zhou Dian snorted coldly, and the speed that was already as fast as thunder suddenly became a little faster. On the other side, Lian Yan, who came with Zhou Dian, saw that the situation was not good, and had already quietly escaped from the Sky Demon Valley before everyone recovered. In Tianyao Mountain, Yongkai ran away almost desperately, using space secret techniques from time to time to hide his own aura. He did not dare to walk in a straight line, constantly changing directions, trying to get rid of Zhou Dian behind him. But everything was in vain. No matter how he acted, there was always a powerful divine sense that locked him firmly. It's just that he couldn't understand it when he was watching, but when he really faced it, Yongkai deeply understood the horror of the Emperor Senior 3-layer powerhouse. The huge gap in cultivation between himself and Zhou Dian cannot be made up by the magic power of space at all. The distance between each other is getting closer and closer, and for the first time Yang realized what despair is. Space magic can't get rid of the other party, and he doesn't know what method to use to resolve the crisis. Soul-eating insects probably won't work, because Yuewen said that his soul-eating insects are not strong enough, and Yuewen even suppressed them before. Zhou Dian and Yuewen are powerhouses of the same level, and what Yuewen can do, Zhou Dian must be able to do too. Perhaps there is a little hope for the soul-slashing knife, but the hope is not great. After all, Yongkai has not refined it, and cannot display its full power. Before being able to attack Ban Qing successfully, one reason is that Ban Qing's strength is not strong enough, and the other reason is that Yongkai caught him by surprise. After thinking about it, Yongkai found that he had no countermeasures. It seemed that he could only catch him without a fight. And just when his thoughts changed sharply, Zhou Dian, who was chasing behind him, was only 30 miles away from him. At this moment, Yongkai suddenly noticed a powerful force behind him breaking through the air. He looked back in his busy schedule, and the next moment his face turned livid. Because he found that Zhou Dian threw the Fang Tian painting halberd in his hand directly towards him, although he didn't know the mystery of such an attack, but Yongkai still tried his best to move and dodge. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mo TNG was rated as 2015 Best IP Adapted Mobile Game, 2015 Most Anticipated New Game, 2015 Best Original Mobile Game, the only mobile game masterpiece of cultivating immortals, and the #1 mobile game on the app list. The hottest, purest and most conscientious, highly recommended. Android users can play for free on the 13th. Apple users want to play now, come to Motion GOL. A unknown currency copyright E%, IE equals UTF-8 and TP equals 0, get free benefits. Chapter 2232 Captured. Shish. Yang Kai's figure was erratic, extremely agile, and with the addition of space supernatural powers, he kept making teleportation movements. But still couldn't get rid of Fang Tian's painted halberd that was thrown from him. This halberd followed like a shadow of a maggot on the tarsus bone, and the distance between it and Yang Kai kept getting closer. At the critical moment, Yang Kai could no longer worry too much. The pure power of the soul came out through his body, turning into a violent attack towards the long halberd, wanting to stop him one or two. Boom! When the loud noise came, Yang Kai's whole body trembled, his complexion darkened instantly, but Fang Tian's painted halberd remained motionless, poking down obliquely from the air. Yang Kai's attack with all his strength was unable to stop it at all. The next moment, Fang Tian's painted halberd fell not far from Yang Kai's side, the halberd's body sank into the ground, and at the same time as it penetrated into the ground, a layer of clearly identifiable ripples centered on the landing point, blasting towards the surroundings spread out. Just a breath of effort, within a radius of 10 miles, was restrained and imprisoned by an invisible force. That force was fierce and overbearing, so powerful that Yang Kai couldn't help giving birth to a kind of despair that he couldn't resist. He wanted to use the power of space to teleport again, but he found helplessly that under the influence of that mysterious force, he couldn't move, and even his thinking became slow. In the field of vision, Zhou Dian's burly and tall figure walked slowly, his face as cold as ice. After a short time, he came to Yang Kai, looked down at him contemptuously, and snorted coldly, "The kid is quite capable, but that's all." After the words fell, he flicked his fingers, and a burst of energy shot out from his fingertips and entered Yang Kai's body. Yang Kai's body froze, and he felt that his own strength was completely imprisoned in an instant, unable to use it at all. It's over. Yang Kai's face was ashamed, although he knew that he might not be able to escape under the eyes of Emperor Senior third-layer powerhouses, but after he was really caught, Yang Kai realized his insignificance. If it weren't for the supernatural power of space, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to struggle long ago. Emperor Zun's third-layer realm is simply not something he can contend with now. Zhou Dian moved his hand, and Fang Tian's painted halberd stuck on the ground flew back to his hand, and was immediately sucked into his body. The great general protecting the country of Shenyu Nation turned his head again, glanced at the location of the Sky Demon Valley, his complexion fluctuated, and he sighed heavily after a while. With endless regret, he mentioned Yang Kai, and galloped away towards Tianyao Mountain. He understood that since His Majesty had already made a move himself, Yiquan might not have any chance. Even a person who has followed him for many years cannot understand the terror of the king. If possible, Zhou Dian naturally hoped that he would defeat Yiquan, but this time he obviously failed to do so. But what made him even more curious was what secret was in Yang Kai's body that could lure the king to leave the palace and take action himself. No matter how he looked at it, Yang Kai was just a Dao origin third-layer martial artist, and there was nothing too surprising about it. If he had to say it, it was that the secret technique of escape mastered by this kid was very brilliant. If he didn't come here by himself this time, but called Lian Yan to come here, I'm afraid he will really escape. Boy, do you know why the king is looking for you? Zhou Dian suddenly asked. Yang Kai was frustrated, and replied angrily when he heard the words, "I should be asking you this, right?" Before he could finish speaking, he froze all over, and his face showed pain, because Zhou Dian secretly made a murderous hand and shocked him. The pain in the soul was simply heart-piercing. Realizing that he was under the eaves at the moment, Yang Kai didn't dare to be too arrogant. He could only say, "Senior, did you catch the wrong person? It is said that you are looking for some evil star. Take a closer look. I look like is it? This general is only responsible for arresting people, and everything else has nothing to do with me." Zhou Dian replied indifferently, paused, and said again, "I ask you, where is Ban Qing? Have you met him before? Why, no sign of him." "Ban Qing, you mean that guy who is not tall and acts sneaky?" Yang Kai pretended to be confused, and said, "Nonsense, killed by the strong monster clan." When Zhou Dian heard this, a cold light flashed in his eyes, and the murderous intent was almost solidified, making Yang Kai's body cold. But soon, he restrained his murderous aura, and said with a cold snort, "This account will be settled sooner or later." He didn't question Yang Kai too much, and he didn't suspect that Ban Qing died at Yang Kai's hands, because he felt that it was impossible for him to happen. Only those strong men from the Yaozu can kill Ban Qing. Half an hour later, Zhou Dian took Yang Kai back to the place where he was stationed before. At this moment, almost all the powerful human races who followed Zhou Dian into Tianyao Mountain have gathered here. Yu Man, Yuan Qing, and even Lian Yan who escaped from Tianyao Valley before are also here, except Ban Qing's figure. Beside these people, there was a group of listless and helpless captured people gathered together. Seeing Zhou Dian's return, everyone quickly came up to salute. Bring all the people back to the palace. Zhou Dian gave an order, and everyone agreed, and when they spoke, they had already thrown Yang Kai into the pile of captured people. Shen Muji helped Yang Kai without a trace, preventing him from falling to the ground, and then nodded slightly at him. Yang Kai glanced around, and saw several other brothers and sisters, and when they met each other's eyes, they couldn't help but smile bitterly. No one expected that after only entering the world of the immortal traveling mirror to practice for a month, they would be trapped by local warriors in the end. A group of people moved very quickly, and within 10 breaths after Zhou Dian's order was issued, they set off towards the direction of Shenyu City. Along the way, Yang Kai didn't dare to exchange information with others, so he could only remain silent. Until now, he didn't know why he and the others were captured, and what exactly was the cursed star that Ban Qing said. However, it can be seen that this matter has a lot to do with it, otherwise there would be no need to dispatch so many strong men, even Zhou Dian and that ghost-faced man, Wang Shang. Yang Kai faintly felt that he seemed to have fallen into a huge vortex, and he seemed unable to get out. A day later, Heavenly Demon Valley, Yuewen sat cross-legged on the ground, exercised his skills and adjusted his breath. His face was flickering, and many strong monsters looked at him worriedly and spread their vigilance around. Yesterday Yuewen first fought with Zhou Dian, and then fought with that grimace man, which was very exhausting. In addition, Zhou Dian was injured by Zhou Dian when he was attacked by the ghost-face man, and he was injured many times in the final battle. If it wasn't for the grimacing man's strength not enough to crush Yuewen, I'm afraid that the owner of Tianyao Mountain would have already lost his life, and Tianyao Valley would no longer exist. Fortunately, the purpose of Grimace Man this time seems to be only to take people, not to eradicate Tianyao Valley, so after fighting with Yuewen, he retreated voluntarily. Even so, Yuewen's injury will definitely not heal in a short while. And just as he was silently adjusting his breath, Bai Lu's coquettish voice suddenly came from his ear. Who is it? Yuewen hurriedly opened his eyes, staring forward with all his energy. I saw an old man with white hair and beard strolling in front of him. There was no energy fluctuation in the old man's body, just like an ordinary person who had never practiced. He didn't know where he came from, but after arriving here, he went straight to Yuewen. Naturally, all the strong monsters couldn't stand on the sidelines. Yuewen was in the critical moment of healing, so he couldn't stand any disturbance. No matter whether the old man was an enemy or a friend, he couldn't be allowed to approach. So after Bai Lu yelled that sentence, she turned into a ray of white light and rushed towards the old man. But what shocked the Emperor Senior first-level powerhouse was that she was obviously going towards the old man, but after revealing her figure, she realized that her behavior had inexplicably changed, and she fell behind the old man. Shish! Countless strong men of the monster clan moved in response to the sound, and they all blocked the old man's steps. None of them succeeded. All the strong men rushing towards the old man froze in a certain place in a very short time, their eyeballs widened, as if they had seen an extremely terrifying scene. They didn't see any signs of the old man making a move, but they all missed. The old man's pace was not fast, but in the blink of an eye, he came to Yuewen and stared at him with his head down. Yuewen frowned and opened his mouth, and looked at the person seriously, showing suspicion, but the next moment, his eyes lit up, as if thinking of something, he said in horror, "You are." The old man raised his hand slightly to stop Yuewen's next words, and then put that big hand that looked old withered on Yuewen's shoulder. A stream of pure energy slowly poured into Yuewen's body. People like Chang Yuewen couldn't help showing a contented expression, obviously because of the nourishment of this energy, the injuries in their bodies have eased. After a while, the old man withdrew his hand. Yuewen was horrified to find that most of the injuries in his body had healed, and the rest only needed time to recuperate and recover without leaving any hidden dangers. He stood up, respectful, and solemnly clasped his fists at the old man in front of him. "Junior Yuewen, thank you senior for helping me." As soon as these words came out, there was complete silence inside and outside the Sky Demon Valley. Countless strong men from the monster tribe looked at Yuewen in horror, almost daring not to hear what they heard. In this world, Yuewen can almost be said to be the most powerful and one of the few people with the highest seniority, but he actually calls himself a junior in front of this old man of the human race. What is the seniority of this old man? Who is this person? The monsters were completely dumbfounded. Since you know the old man, you should know why the old man came here. The old man finally spoke, looked at Yuewen seriously and said, "Where is the thing?" With a look of shame on Yuewen's face, he replied, "I was taken away." The old man raised his eyebrows. Who took it away, and where did it go? Zhenwu Kingdom, the royal palace. The old man nodded slightly, and said, "It seems that you are still a step late, let alone, I will just make another trip." As soon as the words fell, his figure suddenly became blurred, and immediately faded away, but after 3 breaths, he disappeared into this world. Yuewen stood at the same place, with an expression of reverence and longing, but soon, he couldn't help laughing out loud. The laughter rolled like thunder, and spread throughout the Sky Demon Valley, causing countless monster clans to look sideways at him. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. MoTNG was rated as 2015 Best IP Adapted Mobile Game, 2015 Most Anticipated New Game, 2015 Best Original Mobile Game, the only mobile game masterpiece of cultivating immortals, and the #1 mobile game on the app list. The hottest, purest and most conscientious, highly recommended. Android users can play for free on the 13th. Apple users want to play now, come to MotionGOL. A unknown currency copyright E%. IE equals UTF-8 and TP equals 0, get free benefits. Chapter 2233 Grimace Man. None of the strong men of the Yaozu knew why Yuewen was smiling so happily. Finally, Bai Lu stepped forward and asked softly, "My lord, this old, who the hell is this?" Of course she saw that the old man was extraordinary, but she couldn't remember that there was such a person in this world. Yuewen looked in one direction, and said slowly, 10,000 years ago, the Battle of the Holy Chalk. Holy War. Bai Lu's delicate body shook, her beautiful eyes shot out a frightening light, and she cried softly, "Could it be that this old?" Yuewen nodded slightly, and said, "With such an old hand, young boy will be safe and sound." Speaking of this, he frowned slightly, as if he was worried about something. Zhenwu City, inside the palace. 300 feet underground, there is a sky prison. The environment inside is harsh and unbearable. Although this prison is a place to hold prisoners, it is basically not of much use at ordinary times, because in the entire Zhenwu country, no one dares to break the law, and if they break the law, they will be killed on the spot, so there is no use for this place. So the sky prison is just a symbolic existence, and many people don't even know if it is just a rumor. But at this moment, Yang Kai and the others were imprisoned in the sky prison, looking across the fence. All around are the voices of some warriors who have been captured, this time shouting for grievances. No jailer paid attention. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yang Kai and the others quietly exchanged the information they possessed. In fact, there is no information, nothing more than that this time Zhou Dian brought people into Tianyao Mountain to capture the evil star. Basically all the human warriors who had experienced in Tianyao Mountain were captured, and Yang Kai and others naturally could not escape this disaster. Everyone thought they were the fish in the pond that had been affected. Now that the matter has come to this point, everyone can only pin all their hopes on Gao Shueding. This time, Gao Shueding led the team to enter the immortal world, but she left alone after sending everyone into Tianyao Mountain, and she didn't know what she was doing. If she can get the news, she will definitely find a way to rescue her. It's just that with her strength at the first level of Emperor Senior, I'm afraid she can't do it. Yang Kai only hoped that she would have a way to inform Wen Zishan, who was outside. If Palace Master Wen entered the immortal world in person, there might be a glimmer of hope. Just as he was thinking this way, there was a sudden sound of footsteps outside the cell, and at the same time, an emperor-level pressure descended from the sky. In an instant, everyone was silent. And the footsteps kept going towards the insider, and when they reached a certain position, they stood still, stretched out their hand and pointed at the warrior who was imprisoned in this cell, and said, "The king has orders, bring him out." Hearing the voice, it seemed to be the one that commanded Yu Man. Yes. The jailer who followed quickly opened the door of the cell. Yang Kai and the others all changed their colors. Without him, the person Yu Man was referring to was Sha Sheng, the chief disciple of Qingyang Temple. Soon, there was a shouting sound from Sha Sheng's side, as if he was struggling, but after being taught a little lesson by the jailer, Sha Sheng had to be honest and accept his fate obediently. After a while, Yu Man took Sha Sheng away. Although Yang Kai and the others wanted to help, they were helpless, they could only secretly pray that Sha Shengji would have his own celestial presence. While waiting anxiously, within a quarter of an hour, footsteps came from outside again. Yang Kai quickly looked out, and what he saw made his complexion sink. I saw Sha Sheng's eyes were blank at the moment, and his whole body was trembling and convulsing, as if he had suffered some great damage. Under the leadership of the jailer, he returned to his cell like a walking dead. No one knew what happened to him, and he became so miserable, but seeing this scene, everyone felt sorry for him, and Murong Xiao cried from the heart. She didn't dare to call Sha Sheng, so she could only cry silently. That Yu Man also returned again, stood at a certain place and looked around, then pointed his hand and said, "This one." Xiao Bai suddenly changed color. Because the person Yu Man was referring to turned out to be him. The jailer opened the cell door again and took Xiao Bai away. After they left, Yang Kai hurriedly looked at Sha Sheng, and whispered to him, but Sha Sheng seemed to have lost his soul at this moment, without any response. "Junior brother Yang, brother Sha, is there something wrong?" Murong Xiao asked worriedly. Yang Kai shook his head. "I don't know, but looking at brother Sha like this, he doesn't seem to have suffered any serious trauma, maybe it's just that his soul is a little unstable, just rest for a while." At this moment, he is even more curious about what exactly happened to Sha Sheng to turn him into this way. If it weren't for the power in his body being imprisoned, he could have used his divine sense to investigate carefully, and maybe he could see some clues. Unfortunately, he can't use any power now, so he can only speculate based on his own observation. He casually comforted Murong Xiao a few words, feeling anxious deep in his heart. Looking left and right, no one paid attention to his side. Yang Kai hurriedly ran to a dark corner and sat down cross-legged. He tried his best to calm his mind and mobilize his mind. The restriction in his body was issued by Zhou Dian himself, and it is completely impossible to rely on his own ability to undo it, unless there is a strong person like Zhou Dian to do it. But Yang Kai has the Soul Eater, and that restraining power is also a kind of divine soul power, so it is still restrained by the Soul Eater. As long as he can mobilize the Soul Eater, he has the hope of breaking the restriction and recovering his strength. As for what to do next, we can only take one step at a time. Time passed slowly. While Yang Kai was trying to use the Soul Eater to break the restriction, Shen Muji and Murong Xiao were taken out one by one. Without exception, their situation was the same as that of Sha Sheng and Xiao Bai before, and they didn't know what happened to them. After returning, they were in a trance, their eyes were dull, and they didn't respond to the calls of others. Unable to maintain a clear mind, Yang Kai gradually realized that something was not quite right. This time, Zhou Dian and others captured as many as 70 or 80 warriors from Tianyao Mountain. Among these warriors, the level of strength and cultivation level is different, but everyone else is safe and sound. On the contrary, several people from Qingyang Temple were all taken out. This is obviously no coincidence, but some kind of targeting. Is there any intuitive difference between the warriors who entered the world of the mirror from the outside and others? Yang Kai couldn't help but doubt this, otherwise how can he explain that everyone else is fine, but Sha Sheng and others suffer? But after much deliberation, he couldn't figure it out. But at the critical moment when he broke the restriction, Yu Man suddenly came to his cell, pointed at him with a smile and said, "Take it away." As in the previous situation, the jailer opened the cell, carried Yang Kai, followed behind Yu Man, and walked out of the prison. Yang Kai remained silent all the way, just constantly observing the situation on the left and right. This place should be the palace of Shenyu Kingdom. The palace is extremely luxuriously decorated, but it looks very quiet, as if not many people live there. And Yu Man led Yang Kai around the palace, and soon came to a large hall. Walking here, Yu Man stopped, turned his head to look at Yang Kai coldly and said, "Go in by yourself, the king is inside." Yang Kai nodded. Without any intention of resisting, he took a step forward and walked forward. After walking a few steps, he suddenly looked back at Yu Man and asked, "This sister? Who's my sister?" Yu Man pursed her lips into a smile, full of flair. The jailer stood beside her, as if he didn't dare to look at her, as if he was afraid that his soul would be taken away after he did. Yang Kai also showed an obsessed look, his eyes emitting a terrifying light. It's not that he did it on purpose, it's just that his power is imprisoned at this moment, and he has already been affected by Yu Manmei. But Yu Man didn't dare to continue to do this, so the king waited inside. If the big thing was delayed because of her, she couldn't bear to walk around. So in the next moment, Yu Man restrained his obsession. Yang Kai was shocked, and then he came to his senses, cursing constantly in his heart. If he hadn't been issued a ban, he certainly wouldn't be so irresistible to the temptation. He continued what he said just now. Little brother would like to ask, sister, why did you only bring those few people here? Are there any differences between them? Yu Man curled his lips and said, I'm just following orders. The order of the king. Yang Kai raised his eyebrows. The kid talks too much. Yu Man's face turned cold, and his face changed faster than turning the pages of a book. Yang Kai smiled and said, just ask. Hurry up and get in. Yu Man snorted softly. Yes, Yang Kai responded incessantly, and stepped forward again. Not long after, he came to the front of the hall, opened the door and entered. As soon as you entered the main hall, Yang Kai felt a faint fragrance rushing towards his face, and the fragrance entered his nostrils, making him feel light and light, like walking in the clouds. And looking up, Yang Kai couldn't help being surprised. Because this hall looks like a woman's boudoir, everywhere is decorated with a feminine charm, pink curtains, light red carpet, elegant and elegant. And when he entered the hall, a pair of bright eyes looked at him from the side. Yang Kai turned his head and looked over there. However, at a position more than 10 steps away from him, there is a layer of pink gauze curtain, which vaguely reveals the scenery inside. Behind the curtain, there is a lazy figure, reclining on a bench above. That bright gaze came from this lazy figure. A powerful divine sense swept across Yang Kai, as if it wanted to pass through his soul and body, to dig out the deepest secrets. Yang Kai raised his eyebrows, frowned and thought for a while, then lost his voice, ghost face. He suddenly discovered that the power fluctuations emanating from the person behind the veil were exactly the same as the grimace man he had noticed in the Sky Demon Valley before. This person is obviously the strong man who attacked Yiquan. Yang Kai never thought that this guy was actually a woman. Although she still couldn't see her face clearly, with such an enchanting figure, her appearance would definitely not be much worse. What's more, her strength was also earth-shattering. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. The most popular mobile game, MoTNG, is giving out benefits. The god of the novel is restored. The first magic weapon hedging battle, new and exciting, not to be missed. Android users can play for free today. PokeMotion GOL. A unknown currency copyright E%, IE equals UTF-8 and TP equals 0 receive benefits while playing. Just to burn out that passion, come with me. Play MoTNG, and look for heroes and colleagues on the road of cultivating immortals. Chapter 2234 Invasion and Counterattack. Ghostface. Just when Yang Kai was shocked, a soft and pleasant voice came from behind the pink curtain. This voice seemed to be able to penetrate the human heart, causing an invisible ripple, making Yang happy for a long time. He hastily took a deep breath, concentrating on calming his soul. It's not uncommon for you to call me this Gong, the woman behind the curtain continued, her tone unhurried. Could it be that Senior is the ruler of Zhenwu Kingdom? Yang Kai frowned. Not bad. The other party admitted frankly, but no one has ever known the true face of Bengong, even Zhou Dian has never seen it. Yang Kai was stunned when he heard the words, but soon, a bad premonition arose deep in his heart. Although her words did not reveal any important information and intelligence, it gave Yang Kai a very bad feeling, as if she had exposed a big secret of her own in front of Yang Kai, and Yang Kai must pay for it. What price is the same? Yang Kai couldn't help laughing and said, this junior is so honored, I don't know why senior treats me so favorably. When he spoke, his mind turned sharply, but he couldn't think of any key points. Because, this palace must be like this. The lazy figure on the couch finally got up slowly, sat up straight, and gently waved to Yang Kai through the curtain, come here. Yang Kai frowned, his eyes were full of cold light, and said lightly, your junior can't refuse, right? You can try. Yang Kai couldn't help curling his lips, and could only walk forward slowly. And when he was walking forward, he clearly noticed that the soul of the woman on the opposite side fluctuated unstable for a moment, as if she was expecting something, longing for something. That kind of anticipation and longing almost made it impossible for such a strong man to stabilize his soul. Yang Kai wouldn't naively think that the other party has taken a fancy to him. If that's the case, the other party doesn't have to spend so much trouble at all. With the strength she showed before, she can use any means to make herself obediently submit. Since you are not looking at yourself, you are looking at something in yourself. Thinking of this, Yang Kai was startled. When he reached the curtain, Yang Kai took a deep breath, raised his hand and looked inside. The face of the woman not far away instantly came into view. Yang Kai couldn't help being a little distracted. The other party's face was indeed alluring, turning all living beings upside down. Almost no flaws could be found. It was so perfect that it didn't seem to be owned by the world. But, the moment Yang Kai saw this woman, he had a strange feeling for some reason, that he seemed to recognize this woman, as if he had seen her somewhere before. Carefully recalling the faces of all the Emperor's senior realm powerhouses he encountered, Yang Kai found that no one had compared them, and was puzzled deep in his heart. But under the touch of the four eyes, the woman's pair of beautiful eyes burst out with a terrifying light, and the light almost turned into substance, covering Yang Kai. Yang Kai suddenly froze in place, only feeling as if he was going to fall into an abyss without end. He was horrified and hurriedly exclaimed, "Senior." The woman didn't pay attention to his intentions, but said excitedly, "You are the last person, as expected. That thing must be on your body. If you can get that treasure, I can refine this world, truly become the master of this world. If you cooperate obediently, I will spare your life and protect your prosperity and wealth for the rest of your life. If you dare to resist, you will definitely not be able to survive or die." When it came to the last sentence, the woman's originally beautiful face turned extremely ferocious, and her tone of voice was extremely serious, as if she had gone mad. But Yang Kai listened in a daze. The so-called last person in the woman's mouth, what other treasures are there to refine this world? He has no idea at all. He wanted to resist, but under the influence of the other party's soul secret technique, he became powerless even to turn his mind, let alone do it. And the woman stood up, and came to Yang Kai while her delicate body was swaying, stretched out a jade finger, and directly touched Yang Kai's forehead. In the next instant, a stream of pure spirit power invaded Yang Kai's body along that finger. Yang Kai was shocked, his eyes suddenly became lifeless, and at the same time, the whole person seemed to have suffered unbearable torture, constantly convulsing and trembling. Consciousness sinking, thinking confusion, these are the normal reactions of the soul being disturbed by others. Yang Kai finally understood why Sha Sheng and the others became like that after they were brought back. Obviously, they have all encountered what they are encountering at this moment. Under the impact of the powerful spirit and soul of the Emperor's third-layer realm, how can the warriors of the Daoyuan realm maintain themselves? Not having lost their souls is already a proof of their strength. The woman continued to cast spells, as if she was searching for something in Yang Kai's body. Her complexion fluctuated, but Yang Kai's thoughts were drowsy, as if he was half asleep and half awake. While in a trance, the woman was moved and praised. "What a pure power of the soul, the boy is really different. With a cultivation base of the first level of Daoyuan, he possesses such a powerful soul power, in time, will become a great weapon." After a while, the woman suddenly laughed wildly again. "I found it, ha 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 ha, it really is the Wenxinlian, it really is the Wenxinlian, I saw it right. And it has reached the realm of 7 colors, it can completely bear the burden. The soul of the realm needs. Wen Zishan, when I refine this world, I will not spare you." After saying those words, an extremely ruthless look bloomed in her beautiful eyes, her delicate body turned around, and her whole body turned into a stream of light, which shot directly into the center of Yang Kai's eyebrows, entering Yang Kai's eyes like nothing, in the soul and spirit body. If this scene is seen by others, they will be shocked, because it is extremely dangerous to do so. 2 different spirits cannot be easily fused, and if they are careless, they will end up scattered, unless they have strong control ability. Otherwise, even if you succeed, you may be polluted by the other party's thinking and lose yourself. But the woman obviously has a strong ability to control, and she is not worried about being polluted by Yang Kai's thinking. She shot into Yang Kai's soul and spirit body, and went straight to the colorful warming god lotus, and in just a moment, she landed in the center of the lotus of the warming god lotus. Pure power surrounded her, and the gentle feeling made her groan involuntarily. The warming god lotus is the supreme treasure that nourishes the soul between heaven and earth. There is no other thing that can surpass it, even in the entire star world. It belongs to the kind of treasure that can only be encountered but cannot be sought. Although there are records of Wenxinlian in ancient books, it has only appeared 2 or 3 times in these tens of millions of years. If it weren't for a coincidence, it would be impossible for the woman to know that Yongkai had something like Wen Shenlian on him. She laughed happily, as if she saw a broad road stretching in front of her. However, just when she was about to refine the god-warming lotus, 7 colored rays of light suddenly burst out from the treasure of heaven and earth, forming a layer of 7-colored halo. The halo seemed to have an unstoppable mighty force of heaven and earth, which collided with the woman's soul and body, and unexpectedly darkened her complexion. Her complexion changed drastically, and she yelled again and again, trying in vain to resist the rejection from Wen Shenlian. But before she could do anything, a strange buzzing sound suddenly reached her ears. The woman was stunned, and looked up, only to see that in front of her was a group of densely packed tiny insects, gathering into a cloud of insects, covering her like locusts passing through. Soul-eating worm. The woman's complexion changed drastically, and she cried out in shock, how could there be a soul-eating worm? The next moment, she suddenly came back to her senses, and screamed in disbelief, the kid actually feeds the soul-eating insects on the warming lotus. Crazy, crazy. Boom. When the words fell, Wen Shenlian's 7-colored halo came again, and even a woman who was as strong as a woman had to back away, and she was powerless to fight against it, because this was the repulsion of the treasure of heaven and earth itself, and it was a counterattack against the aura other than its own master. The light on the woman's body dimmed a little again. Seeing more halos coming and the cloud of soul-eating worms attacking aggressively, she let out a coquettish shout angrily, and had no choice but to retreat temporarily. In the wing room, the light flashed, and the woman's figure was revealed again, but compared with the calmness just now, she was a little embarrassed. Before she regained her stature, a chill suddenly descended from the sky and hit her head-on. The chill was so strong that she felt even the slightest threat. The woman was shocked, her delicate body trembled, and invisible power burst out like a tsunami, radiating loudly to the surroundings. A muffled hum sounded, and Yongkai's figure flew out. Buzz buzz. The soul-devouring insect cloud followed the woman and flew out of Yongkai's body, turning into an insect cloud and covering her. For the soul eater, a soul as powerful as a woman is the most delicious meal between heaven and earth. So there was no need for Yongkai to drive it deliberately, the soul eaters seemed to go crazy, and kept rushing towards the woman, wrapping her inside and outside 3 layers at once, airtight. When the woman saw this, she didn't dare to be negligent, and her delicate body shook, forming a layer of protection on the surface of her body, preventing the soul-eating insects from harming her own soul source. Soul-devouring insects are the nemesis of all souls, so even if a woman has a strong cultivation, she cannot kill them. At most, she can only suppress them and prevent them from attacking. But this is not a long-term solution. The protection she formed on the surface of her body is also the condensed power of the soul. The soul-eating insect gnaws on it for a while, and the protection is much weaker. The woman had to continuously urge her strength to maintain this layer of protection. She turned her head again, looked at Yongkai with gloomy eyes, her beautiful eyes were fixed on the long knife in Yongkai's hand, she was slightly moved, and said in amazement, Emperor treasure. And it's still the soul Emperor treasure. The chill she felt before, and even the attack that could threaten her, obviously came from this Emperor treasure, and only secret treasures of this level can achieve this level. She couldn't help but sneered, looked at Yongkai and said, the boy is quite capable, not to mention the help of these many strange treasures, he actually unlocked the restriction under the eyes of this palace, and regained his strength, which is enough for this palace to treat you. I am impressed. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Chapter 2235 Imaginary and Submissive. Hey. Yongkai barely stood up, holding the Soul Slayer knife and pointing at the woman from a distance, the corner of his mouth raised, showing a subtle arc, and said, I am so honored to be praised by my mother-in-law. The woman's face changed slightly, and she said coldly, what did you say? Yongkai shook his head, showing sarcasm, and said, are you going to pretend to be stupid at this time? Do you have to point out your identity? Granny Yu. As soon as Granny Yu uttered the 3 words, the woman's expression suddenly became as cold as ice. Yongkai continued, I was a little confused at first, I don't know where I met your old man, I always feel that your honor is a bit familiar, but I can't think of it after thinking about it. Then when did you think of it? The woman didn't seem to deny Yongkai's guess, but asked with great interest, and she turned a blind eye to the soul-eating insects gathered around her external protection. It's just a link between the past and the future. Yang Kai grinned, there are so many people imprisoned in the sky prison, why do you only see warriors from Qingyang Temple? Obviously there is some special reason, either you know all these people, or what is the difference between these people and the local fighters? Everyone is fascinated, so naturally there is not much difference. In other words, the reason you only see them is because you know them and want to learn from them. What are you looking for? Well, as for what you are looking for, it is probably Wen Shenlian. Before you said the name of Palace Master Wen again, and you also put on a look of hatred with him, the hideous face at that moment. Yang Kai smiled slightly, it makes people have to think about it a lot. It was also when he heard the other party calling out Wen Zishan's name in a haze that he suddenly figured it out. The woman in front of him was obviously the Granny Yu who guarded the mirror, so he felt a little familiar when he saw her for the first time. Since Grandma Yu has been guarding the fugue mirror all year round. Of course, you can come and go freely. It's just that Granny Yu is old, and the woman in front of her is as beautiful as a flower, and Yang Kai didn't connect the two at first. So you recognized Ben Gong? Yang Kai sneered. An old woman came here to transform into a stunning beauty, you have the nerve to call yourself this palace. Granny Yu sneered, are you trying to provoke me? If so, then your methods are too childish. Seeing that his treacherous scheme was seen through, Yang Kai couldn't help curling his lips. Yang Kai is very clear. Facing a strong man like Granny Yu, if he was outside, he might still have a chance, but in this world of fugue, Granny Yu's strength will be improved to the greatest extent, and he has no hope of winning or even escaping. Trusting the other party to make some mistakes under the rage, that's why he speaks so viciously, how could he be seen through by the other party at a glance? The kid still has some brains. Granny Yu slightly nodded at Yang Kai. Yuji appraised, if my guess is correct, you used this soul-eating worm to break the restriction in your body, right? So what? Yang Kai's attitude suddenly became arrogant, and the soul-slaying knife pointed at Granny Yu from afar, saying, old woman, you'd better be more sensible, since you recognize that these are soul-eaters, you naturally know how powerful they are, let them go obediently. Uncle, go out, otherwise, with the order of Uncle, there will be no bones left from them to devour you. He said it as if he could really kill Granny Yu here. HMPH. If they grow for dozens or hundreds of years, maybe this palace will still be afraid of one or two, but with you soul-eating insects. Granny Yu sneered disdainfully. The soul-eater flew out. Many soul-eating insects were so dizzy from the shock that they flew around like headless chickens. But soon, they recovered and wrapped Granny Yu again. Since everyone has talked about this, then I will open the skylight with you and speak brightly. Granny Yu ignored the soul-eating insects outside her body, and said to Yang Kai, you obediently erase the imprint on Wen Shenlian. Give this treasure to me, and I will definitely not treat you badly. Why? Yang Kai said angrily. What do you think? Granny Yu sneered. Yang Kai looked helpless, and after a while, he said, I won't mention this question for now, before that, I want to ask something. What? Grandma, how do you know that I have Wen Shenlian on me? I have hidden this thing very deeply, and it has never been known to anyone. Granny Yu frowned, and said, it's okay to tell you. I have been guarding the divine travel mirror for more than 2,000 years. Although I can't make this rare treasure recognize its owner, I have done some research on it. After your soul and body pass through the divine travel mirror, when entering this place, I can spy on the situation inside your body 1 or 2 times, that is, at that time, I took a glimpse and discovered something. But you don't dare to confirm it, right? So you don't know if you are wrong, and you don't know whose body Wen Shenlian is on, and you also know that we will go to Tianyao Mountain to practice after entering the magic mirror, so you just order Zhou Dian to take people to Tianyao Mountain to capture the so-called cursed star. After capturing us back, we will check one by one. Yang Kai continued to speculate. That's right, but I thought that the Wenshan lotus was on Xia Sheng's body, the worst, and it was also on Xiao Baiyi's, but I didn't expect it to be in the hands of you who are the weakest. It really surprised me. Yang Kai nodded, expressing understanding. He also finally figured out why there were so many people imprisoned in the prison, but Xia Sheng and others and himself were brought out alone, and what Granny Yu meant by, the last person, before. She checked Xia Sheng and the others, but found nothing. Of course, she was the last one when it was her turn. There is one more question. Yang Kai said suddenly. Boy, you'd better not push yourself too far. Granny Yu's face turned cold. Yang Kai chuckled. Grandma, if you don't want to see my soul bury Wen Shenlian, you'd better not talk to me like that, and I'm old, don't get angry, it will hurt your body. He looked extremely concerned, and made Granny Yu furious, but there was nothing he could do. After staring at Yang Kai for a while, Granny Yu said grimly, "Boy, you better understand your situation." "I understand very well." Yang Kai gritted his teeth. "I hope my mother-in-law will cooperate, otherwise I will be buried, and there will be nothing good to eat after falling into your hands anyway, so it's better for everyone to break up." He buried his soul one bite at a time, and Granny Yu really didn't dare to be rough on him. The warming spirit lotus is the most precious treasure in the world. For thousands of years, it will occasionally appear for a short time, and it will be obtained by someone with rich opportunities. And if the owner who got the Wenshenlian died, Wenshenlian would not disappear with it, but would absorb the previous owner's soul energy and leave it in this world, waiting for the next person who was destined. When Yang Kai obtained the warming god lotus back then, it was only in the three-color form. At that time, it retained the energy of the former master's soul, which gave Yang Kai great benefits. Although the Wenshenlian will not disappear with the death of its master, but if it uses the special method of soul burial, using the self-explosion of the soul of the warrior as its power, it can be wiped out in this world. Granny Yu's strength surpassed that of Yang Kai so much, even if Yang Kai had the Soul Slayer knife and the Soul Eater to help him, if Granny Yu really wanted to attack Yang Kai, how could he avoid it? The reason why she didn't act hastily was because she had some scruples, and it was Yang Kai who desperately fought her to the death, and buried Wenshenlian in his soul. Previously, Yang Kai was imprisoned with all his strength, and she used methods to attack his soul. Yang Kai had no resistance and could only let him do what he did, but now that Yang Kai has regained his freedom, he has the opportunity to use the method of soul burial. Come. Granny Yu stared deeply at Yang Kai, closing her eyes for a while, and when she opened them again, it was already peaceful. "This is the last question, you should stop here, kid." "Of course." Yang Kai grinned, "Mother-in-law cooperates with me, of course the boy will not mess around." "That's the best." Granny Yu nodded. Yang Kai looked solemn, and said in a deep voice, "Grandma, what do you want this Wenshenlian for?" Hearing this, Granny Yu frowned, her face turned frosty, and she fell silent. Yang Kai Dao, "I'm sure you don't just want to warm and nourish your own soul, because mother-in-law, you said something before, it seems that if you get this Shenshen Lotus, you can be unfavorable to Palace Master Wen. Let's do this, boy, change the way of asking." At this moment, Yang Kai's eyes became extremely sharp, staring straight at Granny Yu's eyes, without moving for a moment. "The so-called mirror soul, what is it? Why does it need Wenshenlian to carry it?" As soon as these words came out, Granny Yu's pretty face immediately showed a ruthless look, and there was a faint murderous intent pervading. "Mother-in-law, let's agree, you are not trustworthy. If you do this, the kid will go back on your word. You can't blame me for being unrighteous. Don't cry after my soul buries Wenshenlian." Yang Kai, seeing that she didn't answer for a long time, she hurriedly urged her up. Granny Yu laughed back in anger. "You really dare to bury your soul? If you dare, you can try it yourself. I will wait and see." She suddenly put on a posture of watching the show. Yang Kai couldn't help touching his nose, shaking his head and said, "Anyway, mother-in-law, don't force me. If you are in a hurry, I will die." HMPH. Yellow-haired boy. Granny Yu cursed angrily in an unhappy mood. If a strong person like her is threatened by Yang Kai, her mood will not be much better. After being silent for a long time, she gritted her teeth and said, "Boy, you should know that there are some secret treasures in the world by chance. Over time, their own wills have been born. These special wills are called weapon spirits." When Yang Kai heard that she wanted to explain, he suddenly came to the spirit, listened attentively, and nodded. "I naturally know this. Lu Yan is a tool spirit. Yang Kai naturally has a deep understanding of this aspect. These kinds of secret treasures with weapon spirits often have great power. Compared with those without weapon spirits, they are more than a little bit stronger. But there are billions of secret treasures in the world, but there are no objects that can give birth to weapon spirits. How much, the spirit of the weapon, is also an extremely rare thing." To be continued. Chapter 2236. One Sword Comes West. The birth of the artifact spirit, adhering to the fate of heaven and earth, is more of a coincidence, and has nothing to do with the grade of the secret treasure itself. Of course, some people say that the higher the grade of the secret treasure, the greater the chance of the birth of the artifact spirit. This may also be true. After all, it takes a long time for the birth of a weapon spirit, maybe thousands of years. If the grade of the secret treasure is too low, it will not be able to preserve it for so long. Granny Yu continued. Yang Kai remained silent, listened quietly. And this immortal travel mirror has its own artifact spirit. Granny Yu took a deep look at Yang Kai when she said this. Is it the mirror soul that your old man said? Yang Kai raised his brows. That's right. Granny Yu nodded slightly. Since I discovered this fugue mirror, I have been studying it for thousands of years, but I have been unable to refine it and use it for myself. Until one time, by chance, I noticed the will of one world as the mirror soul. If you don't subdue the mirror soul, you can't refine this world at all. But how easy is it to subdue that mirror soul? That's the mighty power of the world in one world, and you can cultivate it like this. The spirit and spirit body that is attached to it is not enough to carry its will, and if it is forcibly collected, it will only be scattered. The strength of the will, maybe even a warrior of the emperor level cannot accommodate it. Yang Kai couldn't help being moved, and said in surprise, so you thought of using something else as a carrier to carry the will of this world? Granny Yu snorted coldly. Besides this, is there any other method? But the requirements of this method are too harsh. How many gods can achieve this level in the whole world? At this point, she suddenly looked at Yang Kai with fiery eyes, and said, and the warming god Lotus you have is one of them. So it is. Yang Kai nodded, suddenly enlightened. As long as I can obtain the warming god Lotus, I can use this treasure of heaven and earth as a carrier to fuse the mirror soul of the immortal traveling mirror to completely refine this world. At that time, the power of my divine soul can go straight to the realm of the emperor. Wen Zishan, she couldn't stop laughing, and shouted, it's nothing. Grandma, you have so much resentment towards Palace Master Wen. Yang Kai had a sad expression on his face. Don't mention that bastard to me. Granny Yu suddenly became furious. If it wasn't for him, I could study this magic mirror quietly. This natural treasure also belongs to me. But 800 years ago, he suddenly came here Qingyang mountain range. After defeating Bengong, I want to get involved in this treasure, I can't stand it. That's right, Yang Kai answered casually. Granny Yu glanced at him, the fury on her face gradually subsided, and her tone softened. She said, boy, what I should tell you, I have already told you everything. It's time to hand Wen Shenlian over to Bengong. Don't worry, Wen Zishan is the only one I have to deal with. After fulfilling this wish, you can do whatever you like. Then I have to thank my mother-in-law. Yang Kai grinned, and changed the topic, but this matter is difficult. Granny Yu's face turned cold. She stared at Yang Kai gloomily, and said coldly, boy, are you going to go back on your word? No no no, Yang Kai denied it firmly, it's just that even if I want to agree to this matter, Palace Master Wen will not agree, don't you think so, Palace Master Wen? With the last sentence, he suddenly shouted loudly into the void beside him. What? Seeing this, Granny Yu's expression changed drastically, and when she yelled sharply, she looked around and exclaimed in surprise, Wen Zishan is here. She looked like a mouse seeing a cat, as if she was extremely afraid of Wen Zishan. But in the next moment, she realized that she had been tricked. In the void, there was no figure of Wen Zishan. On the contrary, at the moment when she panicked and lost her mind, Yang Kai rushed out. Damn it, kid! Granny Yu was furious, her pretty face was completely ferocious, and she rushed out chasing Yang Kai with a flick of her delicate body. It was Yang Kai who used the space secret technique, but he couldn't get rid of Granny Yu's figure, so he ran out of the palace with his front feet, and Granny Yu chased him with his back feet, blocking him directly in front of him. Granny Yu pointed at Yang Kai with a finger, and the energy vortex surged at the fingertips, which seemed to contain great power. Under Yang Kai's shock, his complexion changed wildly. But he also shouted without thinking, Shenglian. After the words fell, a white lotus bud suddenly bloomed around the body. It is a little different from the lotus secret technique that he performs in the outside world. When he directly uses the soul and spirit body to perform this supreme soul treasure, the buds of the lotus flower are directly exposed, allowing Granny Yu to see clearly. Wen Shenlian, seeing this, Granny Yu was overjoyed, and the movements of her hands paused slightly. But at this moment, the lotus bud swayed slightly, and then suddenly disappeared, turning into a stream of light, and shot into Granny Yu's body. Changru Granny Yu couldn't help snorting, and her delicate body shook slightly. The next moment, her delicate face paled. Because she noticed that the power of the soul in her body was passing away rapidly, as if something in her body was devouring her soul, and as the power of the soul passed away, the buds of the lotus bloomed quickly, exuding a charming fragrance. Yang Kai succeeded in one move. He didn't stop at all. Holding the soul-slaying knife, he slashed towards Granny Yu fiercely. Although the other party was slightly affected by the Lotus secret technique, she was not without resistance. She just raised her hand, and a sudden gust of wind blew Yang Kai's body to this side. The strength gap between each other is too big. Even if Yang Kai's tricks are all in place, he still has no choice but to win the other party. He cursed, and didn't dare to stay any longer. With the space secret technique added to his body, his figure was up and down, and he jumped thousands of feet in the blink of an eye, and went straight to escape outside the palace. Grandma Yu's angry roar came from far behind. In the palace, no one remained silent. Zhou Dian, Yu Man, and Yuan Qing all looked towards the source of the sound, with expressions of shock on their faces. In a short time, outside the palace, Yang Kai's figure was as fast as a shooting star. He didn't know what he should do now, but he knew that once Granny Yu caught him again, he would not be as lucky as before. At that time, Granny Yu would definitely suppress him with absolute strength and forcibly take away the blood in his body. Wen Shenlian. He can only take one step at a time. And just as he was thinking about it, an astonishing coercion permeated from behind, pressing on him like a mountain. Yang Kai staggered, almost fell down, took a moment to look back, and saw that 10 miles away, Granny Yu was in the form of Cheng Hong, chasing all the way, with a fierce momentum. When chasing, she still didn't forget intimidate Yang Kai. Boy, I want you to die. How could Yang Kai care about her? The power of space has been pushed to the limit, and it is busy running for its life. But the disparity in strength made his approach just a matter of lingering. Even Zhou Dian can capture it, not to mention Granny Yu is doing it herself. Although both of them are at the 3rd level of Emperor Senior, Granny Yu has studied the Immortal Mirror for thousands of years, and even if she cannot refine it, she can still use some of the magical powers of this rare treasure. In less than 30 breaths of time, Granny Yu's figure has already been killed. She grinned grimly from a distance, and with a slight movement of her mind, she had already locked the space around Yang Kai with her shocking means, preventing him from using the power of space to teleport. But this time she obviously didn't intend to talk nonsense with Yang Kai anymore. She flew over directly, stretched out her hands into claws, and wanted to capture and suppress Yang Kai. Yang Kai's face turned blue, and he thought about it in his mind, but he couldn't think of any good way to resolve the crisis in front of him. The words of soul burial Wen Shenlian probably couldn't make Granny Yu stop. This was just a last resort, and a last resort. Yang Kai didn't dare to use it until the last moment. Seeing that he was about to be captured, Yang Kai was also ready to fight to the death when Granny Yu approached him. But at this moment, a sudden change occurred. But seeing from the western land, a stream of light floated over, dodging in front of Yang Kai. Beautiful figure, cold murderous intent. A beautiful face, a piercing sword spirit. Yang Kai looked at this person's pretty back, his eyes lit up, and he whispered, Elder Gao. The person who came was Gao Shueting, who had been separated from them from the beginning. For some reason, she suddenly killed him at this moment, and stood in front of Yang Kai at a critical moment. Yang Kai noticed that she was holding a long sword in her hand. On the long sword, the blade was sharp, the sword rhyme was ups and downs, and the energy fluctuations were extraordinary. This is astonishingly a divine soul secret treasure at the Emperor treasure level. But judging by the appearance of this Emperor treasure, it seems that he has just completed the sacrificial refinement. But soon, Yang Kai realized something was wrong, and shouted, Elder Gao, you are not an opponent, hurry up. Gao Shueting's cultivation is only at the 1st level of Emperor Senior. Even if she has entered the world of the Immortal Mirror 4 times, and her spiritual power is slightly stronger than her physical cultivation, she is definitely no match for Granny Yu. Her coming here is of no use at all. Facing Yang Kai's yelling, Gao Shueting was indifferent, but stood there calmly, and said lightly, don't be nervous. On the other side, Granny Yu obviously recognized Gao Shueting, her face changed slightly, her figure stopped, and she sternly shouted, get out. She didn't seem to dare to attack Gao Shueting, her face was filled with fear. Gao Shueting ignored her, but looked back at Yang Kai, and asked with concern, are you not injured? Yang Kai shook his head, it's okay. What about Sha Sheng and the others? They were all imprisoned in the sky prison, but Brother Sha and the others are a little shaken now, fortunately there is no danger of their lives. That's good. Gao Shueting also breathed a sigh of relief. Elder Gao, why did you come here? Yang Kai looked at her in astonishment. I have been to Tianyao Mountain. I wanted to secretly check on her and others' experience, but I didn't want to find out some information that people don't want to hear, so I chased it all the way. Fortunately, I came in time. Hearing this, Yang Kai showed a clear expression. But Gao Shueding came in time. If he was one step later, he must have been captured alive by Granny Yu. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. The most popular mobile game, MoTNG, is giving out benefits. The god of the novel is restored, the first magic weapon hedging battle, new and exciting, not to be missed. Android users can play for free today. PokeMotion GOL. A unknown currency copyright E%, IE equals UTF-8 and TP equals 0 receive benefits while playing. Just to burn out that passion, come with me. Play MoTNG, and look for heroes and colleagues on the road of cultivating immortals. Chapter 2237 Great Emperor. Outside the palace, on the plain, Gao Shueding, with her cultivation at the first level of Emperor Senior, faced Granny Yu, who was at the third level of Emperor Senior, without fear. She stroked her hair by her ears, and said calmly, "Mother-in-law, how is this so far?" Granny Yu was slightly taken aback when she heard the words, but soon burst into laughter and sternly said, "Little girl, who do you think you are talking to? Of course it's with you, mother-in-law." Gao Shueding was indifferent, her face still indifferent. "If you promise to stop this matter, the lord of the palace may be lenient and won't embarrass you, but if you insist on going your own way. Mother-in-law, I have known you for hundreds of years, although you are not a member of my temple, but you still have some sympathy, and there are some things that I don't want to do too badly. Are you threatening me?" Granny Yu's face became serious, and her voice became sharp. Gao Shueding shook her head and said, "Mother-in-law is a senior, Shueding dare not threaten you. It's just that Shueding was ordered by the hall master to bring a few disciples to practice in this magic mirror. They must be kept safe, and no one can hurt them, even if it's you, mother-in-law, you can't." He. Granny Yu laughed loudly. Xiao Nizi is not strong, but her tone is not small. "Do you think that with your ability, you can do anything to this palace? If it weren't for the fact that you have been so well behaved all these years, do you think that this palace will have a good talk with you? Grandma, do you still remember that when Shueding was young, she secretly brought you food?" Gao Shueding suddenly mentioned the past. Granny Yu's face turned cold, and she said in a cold voice, "What are you talking about?" A trace of memory flashed involuntarily in her eyes, and the violent expression softened slightly for a moment. "Shueding sincerely hopes that mother-in-law can stop here." Gao Shueding sighed slightly. "Impossible." The coldness in Granny Yu's eyes reappeared, and she said coldly, "I have been waiting for so many years, and finally I have a little hope. Just because of your few words, you want Ben Gong to give up? Idiots." Gao Shueding frowned and said, "I don't know what you are waiting for, mother-in-law, and what are you hoping for, but, mother-in-law, do you have to do this? 800 years ago, although you have not entered the temple, Shueding has long regarded you as a temple. The middleman is also Shui Ting's elder. Shui Ting really doesn't want to do anything to you. Stop talking nonsense." Granny Yu also lost her patience, and sternly shouted, "You can either get out of here immediately, or I will kill you with your own hands. You can choose the two ways." Hearing this, Yang Kai couldn't help but tense up. Although Gao Shueding can be regarded as a strong person, but in front of people like Granny Yu, Yang Kai reckons that she is definitely not an opponent. If Gao Shueding was implicated because of himself, he would also feel guilty. "Hey." Gao Shueding suddenly sighed deeply, stared at Granny Yu, and said, "Grandma, Lord Palace Master, he already knew that you have always held a grudge against him, and you have a grudge against the First World War, but even so, you still rest assured that I will lead the team into this fugue mirror, and you are not worried that you will take advantage of it. Why do you think this is?" As soon as this remark came out, Granny Yu's face changed slightly, and she frowned and began to think. Gao Shueding continued, "Over the years, many of the disciples who have entered the immortal mirror in the temple have died because of you, but the master of the temple did not hold you accountable, only acquiescing that it was a test for the disciples. It's because you didn't do it yourself, and even if you send your subordinates, you only send some fighters who are comparable to their strength, which is indeed a test for them. Second, the hall master is ashamed of you. Although he did not force it, but he did regard it as the most precious capital of the temple, and repeatedly let his disciples enter this place to practice. When Zigen is ashamed of Bengong." Granny Yu suddenly sneered, "Would someone with his kind of conscience be eaten by a dog? It makes people laugh out loud." Gao Shueding said indifferently, "That's why the master of the hall has ordered you not to use this method unless it is absolutely necessary. Because he sincerely hopes that the magic mirror will always be guarded by you, old man. What method? Granny Yu suddenly became tense, staring at Gao Shueding with wide eyes. Gao Shueding didn't answer her, but quickly sealed her hands and said, Grandma, don't worry, I have already informed the hall master about this matter through secret techniques, and he should be waiting in the cave at this moment, waiting for your soul to return. At that time, you can talk to him in detail. After saying that, she supported each other obliquely with both hands, a circle of light bloomed between her hands, she pushed forward gently, and the light shot straight towards Granny Yu. This ray of light clearly did not cause any harm, nor did it pose any threat, but Granny Yu's expression changed drastically after seeing this ray of light, and she shouted in horror, no. While speaking, she turned around and ran away, wanting to escape from this place. But her speed was fast, and the light was even faster, hitting her body in an instant and melting into her soul. The next moment, an inexplicable force surged up and down, and above Granny Yu's head, a vortex appeared strangely. The vortex spun, sending out a huge traction force, trying to suck Granny Yu away. Naturally, Granny Yu didn't want to sit still, so in anger, she roared hysterically, and a wave of extremely pure spirit energy leisurely shot out, rushing straight towards Gao Shueding. Gao Shueding's complexion changed wildly. Granny Yu's attack from the trapped beast was obviously an explosion of all her strength, and it was not something she could resist at all, the only way to dodge it was to dodge it. But just when she wanted to avoid it, a floating figure suddenly appeared in the midair. That figure was an old man with a fairy-like face, white hair and beard, and his whole body was ordinary. If he hadn't shown up on his own initiative, none of the people present could detect his existence. As soon as the old man appeared, he waved his sleeves. The soft power spread out, dispelling Granny Yu's spiritual impact invisible. Granny Yu widened her eyes, looking at the old man with a look of disbelief on her face, as if she had seen a ghost during the day. And at this moment, the power emanating from the vortex above her head was finally irresistible, and amidst her unwilling roar, her figure was sucked into it. Immediately, the vortex also disappeared suddenly, and the figure of Granny Yu also disappeared without a trace. Yang Kai looked at this scene, and his thoughts turned sharply deep in his heart. Granny Yu's body should have been tampered with by Wen Zishan, perhaps planted with some secret technique, and he taught Gao Shueding how to use this secret technique. Once this secret technique is performed, Granny Yu's physical body will take the initiative to absorb the soul back. This also created the scene in front of me. Granny Yu, who was at the third level of Emperor Zun, couldn't stay in the world of the mirror after being hit by the secret technique. Although this is only Yang Kai's guess, it should be close to 10. After all, only the physical body and the soul are inseparable, and the only thing that can attract Granny Yu's soul is her own body. While Yang Kai was speculating, Gao Shueding looked suspiciously at the old man who suddenly appeared. She released her divine sense, but when she came into contact with the old man, she was horrified to find that the old man did not exist at all. In other words, her divine sense could not detect any trace of him. This discovery made Gao Shueding's expression suddenly serious. Because even a person like Granny Yu and Wen Zishan can get a little bit of details about the other person if she releases her spiritual thoughts with her current cultivation base, but this is the first time she has such a situation with this old man. There is only one explanation for this situation: this old man's cultivation level is higher than Granny Yu and Wen Zishan. The first two are already at the third level of Emperor Senior, and beings higher than them have a special title in this world: Great Emperor. In the world of the Immortal Traveling Mirror, there is actually a Great Emperor. Wen Zishan had never told her about this kind of thing, maybe even Wen Zishan didn't know about it. Gao Shueding was in awe, bowed and said, "Junior Gao Shueding, I have met Senior." The old man nodded slightly. "Senior, and mother-in-law, are you in the same group?" Gao Shueding asked again. Yang Kai turned his head to look at Gao Shueding with a strange face, and suddenly found that this frosty elder Gao had such a cute side. If the other party was with Granny Yu, there was no need to help her just now. She had been subdued a long time ago, so why would she be given the opportunity to use secret techniques? No, the old man shook his head slowly. This junior is very grateful to Senior for saving his life just now, but I don't know Senior. Gao Shueding asked tentatively, although she didn't feel any hostility from this old man, but the other party's supernatural cultivation made her dare not be careless. "I am afraid that one will accidentally anger the other party. If so, Wen Zishan would not be able to save her even if he came in person." The old man came here. The old man said. His eyes turned to Yang Kai, and he continued, "It's for him." "For me?" Yang Kai looked astonished. Gao Shueting's expression was also a bit exciting. She turned her head to look at Yang Kai, wondering what was so special about him that the great emperor came here to meet him. Because as far as she knows, Yang Kai entered the Immortal travel mirror for the first time, and he didn't even know the existence of this strange treasure before. It is impossible to say that the two knew each other before. After settling her mind, Gao Shueting asked again, "Dare to ask, senior, what do you want from him?" The old man smiled slightly, with a kind expression on his face, and said, "Don't worry, the old man won't make things difficult for him. He just wants to take him there for a few days. He needs to help with some things, and he will be sent away later." Gao Shueting raised her eyebrows and said unexpectedly, "Leave this place." "What do you know, senior?" The old man's words, "leave this place," obviously revealed some extraordinary information. The old man smiled and said, "The old man can get a little glimpse of the outside world, and also know that you are not from this place." Yang Kai was shocked when he heard this. Yuewen knew that this was the world of Fugue Mirror. It was because Wen Zishan made a slip of the tongue after drinking and told him, but this old man spied into the outside world with his own ability. This shows that the strength of the old man has really reached the level of a great emperor, and only this kind of strength can break through the power of the interface, penetrate the virtual and the real, move the mind freely, and investigate the external situation. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. The most popular mobile game, MoTNG, is giving out benefits. The god of the novel is restored, the first magic weapon hedging battle, new and exciting, not to be missed. Android users can play for free today. PokeMotion GOL. A unknown currency copyright E%, IE equals UTF-8 and TP equals 0 receive benefits while playing. Just to burn out that passion, come with me. Play MoTNG, and look for heroes and colleagues on the road of cultivating immortals. Chapter 2238 Tian Yan. You don't need to worry about his safety, the old man will not hurt him at all, but there is one thing that needs to be borrowed from him. The old man patiently explained to Gao Shueting, then looked at the palace again, and said, "How many times do you the two disciples are still inside, although their souls are not too damaged, but after all, they have suffered some shocks, it is best to take them out of this place as soon as possible so that they can recuperate." "Thank you senior for reminding me," Gao Shueting said hastily. "Yeah." The old man nodded lightly, then turned his gaze to Yang Kai, and said kindly, "Little friend, come with me." After saying that, he waved his hand, and Yang Kai immediately felt a soft force wrapping himself, and flew to the old man involuntarily, then followed him, and quickly galloped in one direction. Gao Shueting opened her mouth, as if she wanted to say something, but there was no trace of the old man and Yang Kai in front of her, they disappeared in a short time. Staring at the direction where the two disappeared, Gao Shueting frowned slightly. Although she also knew that with the old man's astonishing cultivation and strength, there was no need to lie to her. If the old man was really hostile, he could crush her to powder with just a finger. But he took Yang Kai away so inexplicably, which still made Gao Shueting a little uneasy, not knowing what kind of power the old man was going to use Yang Kai to do, and what to do. After thinking about it for a while, she knew that she was powerless to solve this matter, and she even had no way to track down the whereabouts of the old man. She could only go to the palace first, rescue Sha Sheng and others, and then send a message to Wen Zishan with a secret technique to let him stay outside. Find a way to take back the souls and bodies of several people. All the way, the wind was flying fast, and the wind was blowing in my ears, and the earth was retreating rapidly. Yang Kai looked awe-inspiring. The old man beside him was the first emperor-level powerhouse he had encountered. Before that, he had only heard about the existence of the great emperor, but had never seen it himself. Of course, Yang Yan may be considered a great emperor, but it is only possible. It's just that even if Yang Yan is the great emperor, her strength is not very high when she gets along with Yang Kai, and her cultivation will gradually recover after she returns to the Star Realm. He has never really seen the means of the great emperor. But today, it was a long-cherished wish. Granny Yu's blow from a trapped animal at the third level of Emperor Senior was like a breeze blowing in front of this old man, it was not worth mentioning. But at this moment, he was taking Yang Kai on the road, and it was dozens of times faster than Yang Kai's space teleportation. Yang Kai couldn't even observe the scenery of the passing place. He was deeply shocked in his heart, and only then did he realize that the height of the great emperor was beyond the reach of ordinary warriors. Along the way, Yang Kai remained silent, and did not ask the old man what he wanted to do, because it would be meaningless even if he asked at this moment, and he would naturally know it when he reached a certain point. The other party was not hostile, so he naturally didn't have to think about running away, but just silently sensed the emperor's will and imperial prestige emanating from the other party's body, so as to temper his own will. He didn't speak, and the old man didn't seem to want to take the initiative to speak. He just kept his head on his way, showing some complicated expressions from time to time. A day later, the old man brought Yang Kai to a valley. After arriving here, the old man slowed down. Yang Kai looked around, and found that the valley was covered by a thick fog, and he could not see his fingers when he entered it, and this thick fog was obviously not an ordinary thick fog, because even if he probed into it with his divine sense, it was like a stone sinking into the sea, without a trace. After a while, the two landed on a flat ground in the valley. The soft power that had been enveloping Yang Kai all this time slowly dissipated. After Yang Kai regained his freedom, he raised his eyes and looked around. Soon, he found that this place seemed to be the only place in the valley that was not shrouded in dense fog. In front of each of the 10 graves, there is a wooden plaque with a person's name engraved on it. Yang Kai was startled, although he knew that there must be no corpses in these tombs, or even anything at all. When he saw these tombs, he felt inexplicably that there were many great figures lying here. His eyes swept over those names one by one, but he didn't recognize any of them. Those names, flying like dragons and phoenixes, every stroke, every line of handwriting, flowed like clouds and flowing water, faintly implying the way of heaven, which made him feel shocked when he saw it in his eyes. "What's your name, little friend?" the old man suddenly asked, looking at Yang Kai kindly. Yang Kai hastily cupped his fists and reported himself. It turned out to be Xiao Yang. "It's a pleasure to meet you." The old man nodded slightly. Yang Kai said solemnly, "Dare to ask senior's name?" The old man was silent for a while, and said, "Old man Tianyan." Yang Kai saluted once again. After Tianyan responded, he pointed to the dozens of graves in front of him and said, "Young friend Yang, do you know who these people are?" Yang Kai said with a solemn expression, "Although the juniors don't recognize any of them's names, they know that these seniors must have been some big figures who are astonishing in the past and present, with superb cultivation bases and hands and eyes." He. Tianyan smiled slightly. "That's not bad. Then do you know, how did they die?" Yang Kai shook his head blankly. In fact, he was also thinking about this question at the moment. Tianyan was such a transcendent powerhouse, it seemed that he had been guarding this place all the time, and that simple wooden house was obviously the place where Tianyan usually meditated and rested. For an emperor-level existence like Tianyan to guard the tomb all the time, these dead strong men must not be unknown people. But, since none of them are unknown people, who can kill them? Could it be that Tianyan couldn't do it himself? Yang Kai saw that the old man didn't look like the kind of bloodthirsty person. Tianyan Dao. A long time ago, the world here was also a place where martial arts were flourishing. Powerhouses at the 3rd level of Emperor Zun emerged endlessly. All sects and sects flourished, and 100 flowers contended. Instead of answering the previous question, he suddenly recalled the past. Yang Kai didn't dare to interrupt him, and quickly put on a focused demeanor to listen. The old man back then was only at the 3rd level of Emperor Senior, and his cultivation level was comparable to that of the woman you met today. Tianyan continued, and Yang Kai knew that he was referring to Granny Yu. Although the world here is very different from the outside world, since it exists, it has its own trajectory and laws. Many strong people are exploring the way to become stronger under the trajectory and laws of the power of this world, seeking common ground while reserving differences. It's fun. A look of memory appeared in Tianyan's eyes. Hearing this, Yang Kai suddenly had a not-so-good feeling, and always felt that there would be a big turning point later. Sure enough, Tianyan said again, but the appearance of one thing has changed the world here. What? Yang Kai asked in surprise. He really couldn't think of what it was that caused the whole world to undergo earth-shaking changes, and those powerhouses buried here should obviously die because of that thing. In other words, that thing has the power to destroy a world. Tianyan gave him a meaningful look, and said calmly, "A bunch of bugs." Yang Kai's complexion changed, and he suddenly remembered what Yiquan had said to him before, and he lost his voice, "Soul Devourer." When he was in Tianyao Mountain, Yuewen once told Yang Kai that in the world of the Immortal Travel Mirror, he was almost destroyed by the Soul Eater, and warned him that if he had the opportunity to enter the Immortal Travel World next time, he would not be able to fully control it. Never bring them in before the Soul Eater, and never leave them here when you leave. Yang Kai clearly remembered Yuewen's serious expression and solemn tone when he said these words. Combined with Yuewen's words, Yang Kai suddenly realized what the old man was talking about. Exactly. Tian Yan nodded solemnly. I don't know where that group of insects came from. At the beginning, they were very weak, and not many people cared about them. But their characteristics and restraint on this world, but let them rapidly become stronger in the constant killing and devouring. Wherever they pass, the lives are devastated and mourning everywhere. All the creatures with their own will are devoured by them, and no one can resist. Families were destroyed one by one, and cities were devoured. In less than a few years, their growth was unimaginable. When Tian Yan said this, a glint of haze flashed in his eyes. When the strong in this world, by the time anyone realizes something is wrong, this group of insects has grown to the point that no one can suppress it. Yang Kai's complexion changed slightly. As the master of the Soul Eater, with such a group of special insects in his hand, Yang Kai understands the restraint and damage of the Soul Eater to this world better than anyone else. He himself once imagined that if the soul-devouring insects were given a certain amount of time, in this world, they would definitely grow into the existence that dominates everything. This is just an idea. Yang Kai doesn't know if it will be successful if it is actually implemented, but from Tian Yan's mouth, Yang Kai knows that this idea has really happened. Even if he hadn't personally experienced that scene back then, Yang Kai could almost imagine the sad scene. The place where the Soul Eater passed was dead silent, and there was no breath of life anymore. They are too powerful, and their restraint on the creatures in this world is too obvious, and they can continue to devour the souls of the strong to strengthen themselves and become stronger and stronger. Tian Yan took a deep breath and continued. So at that time, almost all the powerhouses united together, for themselves and for this world, and launched a desperate battle with that soul-eating worm. Yang Kai's blood was inexplicably boiling. Even though Tian Yan didn't describe the scene of the battle, there seemed to be dozens of Emperor's senior realm powerhouses who were not afraid of death, each showing their magical powers, besieging the spectacle of the soul-devouring insect cloud scene. That battle will definitely make the world lose its color. That battle will definitely make the sun and the moon darken. That battle was destined to be forgotten by the world. Because after that battle, the strong ones turned into nothing, only the tombs with their respective names recorded. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Poke Motion GOL bar. A unknown currency copyright E%, IE equals UTF-8 and TP equals 0. Get real benefits. Iron-blooded experience, pure cultivation of immortals, the most popular mobile game, MoTNG, NetEase's 2015 Immortal Cultivation mobile game's first masterpiece, the most popular cultivation of immortals. Everything is born for cultivation of immortals.